What the fuck is wrong with him? Kisame pulled up with Samehada, ready to capture the Nine-Tails. You know what happened? He got turned into a fucking candy. He chewed him, swallowed, then asked for seconds. Naruto Uzumaki is not a hero in this story. He is not a villain. He is something the shinobi world was never supposed to survive. And today, we watch it not survive.
There is a moment, a single crystalline, perfectly awful moment that the shinobi world will later look back on and say, that is where everything went wrong. Not the Fourth Great Ninja War, not the Uchiha Massacre, not even the Nine-Tails attack on Konoha 12 years ago. No. The moment the world ended, truly, irreversibly, catastrophically ended, was the moment a drunk chunin threw a kunai through the chest of a starving 6-year-old boy in the market district of Konogakure. And the boy did not die. He giggled. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. Let us rewind. Just a little. The evening market in Konoha's eastern district was alive with the usual clatter. Lanterns swinging in the autumn breeze, vendors calling prices, civilians shuffling between stalls with bags of groceries and gossip. The smell of grilled meat and fresh dango drifting thick through the air like a warm blanket. Nobody offered to share. Nobody offered to share with Naruto Uzumaki. He stood at the counter of Takeda's sweet shop, a squat, greasy little stall run by a squat, greasy little man named Takeda. And he stared at the row of fresh Mitarashi dango skewers with the kind of wide-eyed reverence most children reserve for Christmas morning. His stomach growled loud enough that the woman standing 3 feet away flinched. "One dango," Naruto said. His voice was small, not weak, just small. The voice of a 6-year-old boy who had already learned that asking for anything in this village was a negotiation he usually lost. He placed 2 crumpled coins on the counter. It was everything he had. He had found the coins in a gutter that morning and had been saving them all day for this exact moment. Takeda looked at the coins, looked at the boy, his lip curled. "Get lost, demon brat." Naruto blinked. "But Naruto has money. Your money's no good here." Takeda swept the coins off the counter with the back of his fat hand. They clinked against the cobblestones and rolled into the dark. "Now scram before I call someone." "But Naruto is hungry. I said get." Takeda grabbed a broom from behind his stall and swung it. Not gently, not as a warning. He swung it like he was hitting a stray dog, because that is exactly what he thought he was doing. The wooden handle cracked across Naruto's shoulder and sent the boy stumbling sideways into the street. The market crowd watched. Some looked away. Most did not. A few smiled, and standing among the smiling was a chunin named Mizuno. He was 3 drinks deep into a bottle of cheap sake, his flak jacket hanging open, his headband crooked. He had lost a cousin in the Nine-Tails attack. He had never forgiven. He had never moved on. And tonight, watching that little blonde monster get smacked with a broom, something dark and liquid and full of old poison sloshed to the top of his brain and said more. "Hey, demon." Mizuno stepped forward. His hand was already on his hip pouch. "You don't belong here. You don't belong anywhere." Naruto, still on the ground, looked up. His blue eyes, they were still blue then, were wet but not crying. He never cried. He had learned very early that crying made it worse. "Maybe I should finish what the fourth started, huh?" Mizuno slurred. His fingers closed around a kunai. "Do the whole village a favor." Someone in the crowd said, "Mizuno, don't." Someone else said nothing and watched. Mizuno threw the kunai. It was not a warning shot. It was not aimed at the ground near Naruto's feet. It was aimed center mass, thrown with 3 years of chunin training and 6 hours of liquid courage, and it hit Naruto Uzumaki dead in the chest. Right through the sternum. The point punched in the front and came out the back, and the small body jerked with the impact like a puppet yanked by one string. The market went silent. Naruto looked down. There was a kunai sticking out of his chest. A thin line of blood, but not much, oddly. Not as much as there should have been, ran down his orange shirt. He touched the handle with one small hand, pulled it out with a wet sucking sound, looked at it, and here it is. The moment. The one the world will never recover from. The wound did not bleed. It did not close the way a wound closes, stitching together, scabbing over, healing. No. The flesh around the hole in Naruto's chest rippled. It turned pink, not skin pink, pink, bubblegum pink. The edges of the wound stretched outward like taffy being pulled, rubbery and wet and impossibly elastic, and then snapped shut like a mouth closing on a meal. The skin sealed, smooth, unmarked, like the kunai had never existed. Naruto giggled. It was not a child's giggle. It was not the sound of relief or shock or adrenaline. It was the giggle of something that had just remembered what it was. The crowd stared. Naruto's hair, blonde and spiky and dirty, shifted. Just slightly, just at the crown. Something was growing. A small, fleshy protrusion, like a tendril, rising from the top of his skull. It curled forward, rubbery and pink and glistening, shaped like a stubby antenna, thick at the base, tapering to a rounded tip that hung over his forehead. It pulsed once, twice. The tip began to glow, hot pink. The color of something that should not exist in nature. Naruto looked up at Mizuno. His eyes were wrong. The blue was gone. The irises were pink, bright, saturated alien pink, and the whites of his eyes had turned completely, utterly black. Not dark, black, the absolute absence of light, like staring into two holes punched in reality with bubblegum stuffed inside. Mizuno's sake bottle slipped from his fingers and shattered on the cobblestones. "You," Naruto said. His voice was different, deeper, not deeper like a man's voice, deeper like it was coming from somewhere underneath the world. "You hurt Naruto." I, Naruto smiled. Wide, too wide. His cheeks stretched in a way that human cheeks should not stretch, revealing teeth that were just slightly too uniform, too perfect, too white. "Turn into chocolate." The antenna flared. A beam of concentrated pink light, solid, physical, screaming with energy, erupted from the tip of the antenna and struck Mizuno in the center of his flak jacket. The Chunin did not have time to scream. His body seized. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened in a shape that was trying to be a word but never finished. His skin rippled. His form compressed. His features smoothed and darkened and hardened. And in the span of 2 seconds that lasted an eternity for every single person watching, the Chunin named Mizuno ceased to exist, and in his place, standing upright on the cobblestones, was a chocolate bar. A man-sized chocolate bar. It was dark chocolate, wrapped in what appeared to be his own flak jacket, now rendered in green foil. His headband was embossed on the front in milk chocolate relief. It was, by all accounts, a beautifully crafted confection. It was also a human being. Or it had been. Naruto walked over to it. His bare feet slapped against the stone. The antenna bobbed with each step. He looked up at the chocolate bar. It was taller than him, and his black and pink eyes sparkled with a joy so pure and so terrifying that 3 people in the front row of the crowd simultaneously lost control of their bladders. He grabbed the chocolate bar with both hands. His fingers sank into it. He opened his mouth, wider than a 6-year-old's mouth should open, wider than any human mouth should open, and bit, crunch. A chunk the size of a dinner plate came away. Naruto chewed. His eyes closed in bliss. He swallowed, crunch. Another bite, bigger, his jaw unhinged slightly, rubbery flesh stretching to accommodate. 3 bites. That was all it took. The chocolate bar, the man, was gone. Naruto stood in the empty space where a human being had been, chocolate smeared across his cheeks, and licked his fingers one at a time. Yummy. The silence that followed was the loudest sound anyone in that market had ever heard. Then someone screamed, and the market broke. People ran. They did not walk quickly or shuffle nervously or back away with cautious steps. They ran, full, mindless animal panic. Stalls were knocked over. Lanterns crashed to the ground and oil splattered across cobblestones. A woman tripped and was trampled. A man ran face first into a wall because he was looking backward at the pink-eyed boy who was still standing in the middle of the street, still licking chocolate off his fingers, still smiling. Takeda, the sweet shop owner, the one who had hit Naruto with a broom, the one who had started all of this by refusing to sell a starving child a single stick of dango, was trying to dismantle his stall with shaking hands. As if packing up his merchandise would somehow transport him to another dimension, Naruto turned to look at him. Takeda froze. Naruto wanted dango, the boy said. Simply, factually, the antenna on his head glowed. Take it, take all of it, take everything. Please, please, please. Okay, Naruto bounced over, actually bounced, his body compressing and launching like rubber, and grabbed every dango skewer on the counter. He shoved 4 of them into his mouth at once. He was happy, perfectly, completely, cosmically happy. The terror of 40 civilians fleeing for their lives around him did not register. The overturned stalls and scattered goods and crying children did not register. Naruto had dango, and the world was good. He ate 17 skewers in 90 seconds and then wandered off into the night, humming a song he did not know the words to, his pink antenna bobbing in the moonlight. Behind him, the eastern market district of Konagakure looked like a riot had swept through it. In a way, one had. Inside the seal, Kurama felt it happen. The 9-tailed fox had been sealed inside many hosts over the centuries. He had raged against the walls of his prisons, battered at the bars of chakra constructs, snarled defiance at the Uzumaki women who held him captive with their chains of light. He had known anger. He had known hatred. He had known the cold, patient fury of an immortal being reduced to a battery. He had never known fear, not until tonight. The mindscape of Naruto Uzumaki had always been a sewer, dark, dripping, the classic manifestation of a lonely child's subconscious. Kurama had lounged behind his cage in the ankle-deep water and watched the boy's miserable life through borrowed eyes and felt nothing but contempt. But now the sewer was gone. Kurama opened his eyes and saw pink. Everything was pink. The walls, the floor, the ceiling, if there even was a ceiling, were made of something smooth and rubbery and warm. It pulsed, slowly, like a heartbeat. The air smelled sweet, sickeningly sweet, like sugar and vanilla and something underneath that smelled like ozone before a lightning strike. The raw, crackling scent of power so vast it bent the air around it. Kurama stood. All 9 tails bristled. His fur stood on end. Every cell in his ancient body was screaming the same message, a message he had never received before in his millennia of existence. Run! What is this? Kurama snarled. His voice echoed strangely in the pink void. No reverberation. The sound was swallowed, a giggle. It came from everywhere, from the walls, from the floor, from inside Kurama's own skull. A shape formed in the pink matter ahead of him. It rose out of the floor like something being born, a small humanoid figure, featureless at first, then sharpening into the outline of a boy. Blonde hair, orange scraps of clothing, an antenna curling from the top of his head. Black eyes with pink irises that glowed like embers in the bubblegum void. Fox, Naruto said cheerfully. Big fluffy fox. I am the 9-tailed fox, Kurama growled, lowering his head to the boy's level. His mouth alone was big enough to swallow Naruto whole. I am the most powerful of the tailed beasts. I am hatred incarnate. I am. Naruto reached out and grabbed one of Kurama's tails. The tail was the size of a building. Naruto grabbed it with one small pink hand, and Kurama could not pull free. The fox yanked, pulled, thrashed. The tail did not move. It was like it had been welded to the boy's palm. Pretty tail, Naruto said. He leaned forward, opened his mouth, and took a bite. Chomp! A chunk of Kurama's tail, pure chakra, concentrated malice given form, the physical manifestation of hatred that had survived since the Sage of 6 Paths, came away in Naruto's mouth like cotton candy being torn from a stick. He chewed, twice, swallowed. Kurama screamed. It was not a roar of defiance. It was not the bellowing challenge of a beast preparing to fight. It was a scream, raw, animal. The sound that something makes when it encounters a predator so far above it on the food chain that the concept of resistance becomes physically meaningless. Naruto chewed thoughtfully, tilted his head, smacked his lips. You taste like strawberry. Kurama looked at the stump of his tail. It was regenerating. He was a tailed beast. He would always regenerate. But the bite mark was clean, perfect, like a cookie cutter had been pressed through solid chakra. And the boy was looking at the remaining 8 tails with the expression of a child who had just discovered their favorite flavor of ice cream. Stay back, Kurama said. And for the first time in the recorded history of the tailed beasts, the words came out as a whisper. Stay away from me. Naruto pouted. Fox doesn't want to play? I am the 9-tailed fox. I have leveled mountains. I have... Boring. Naruto turned away. The pink void rippled around him. Naruto, go eat more chocolate, people. The boy dissolved back into the walls. The pink pulsed once, then silence. Kurama stood alone in the bubblegum void that used to be his prison and realized with a cold, creeping, bone-deep certainty that the dynamic had shifted. He was not the monster sealed inside a child. He was prey sealed inside a predator. the nine-tailed fox, destroyer of villages, terror of the shinobi world, the living embodiment of hatred, retreated to the farthest, deepest, darkest corner of the seal. He curled his remaining tails around himself. He pressed his body against the pink wall and tried very, very hard to make himself small. He did not come back out. The third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, was 71 years old. He had survived 3 wars. He had buried 2 of his students. He had watched his successor die, sealing a demon fox into an infant. He had handled assassination attempts, coup plots, rogue ninja defections, and the systematic murder of an entire clan under his nose. He had seen everything this world had to throw at him. He was not ready for the report that landed on his desk that night. "Repeat that," Hiruzen said. His pipe was not lit. He had forgotten to light it. He had forgotten he was holding it. The Anbu captain, codenamed Cat, stood at rigid attention. Her mask hid her face. It did not hide the tremor in her voice. At approximately 1900 hours, the jinchuriki Naruto Uzumaki was assaulted in the eastern market by Chunin Mizuno Takahashi. The Chunin threw a kunai that penetrated the jinchuriki's chest cavity. The wound healed instantly by an unknown mechanism that did not match any documented form of Biju-assisted regeneration. Subsequently, a growth appeared on the jinchuriki's head, an antenna-like appendage. The jinchuriki then discharged a beam of unknown energy from this appendage at Chunin Mizuno, which transformed Mizuno into... Cat paused. A confection. A confection. A chocolate bar, Lord Hokage. Hiruzen stared. The jinchuriki then consumed the confection. Hiruzen's pipe slipped from his fingers and clattered against his desk. He did not pick it up. He ate him, Hiruzen said. Yes, Lord Hokage, in 3 bites. The office was silent for a very long time. Hiruzen leaned back in his chair. The wood creaked. The shadows from the single desk lamp made his wrinkled face look like a topographic map of a man encountering a problem that had no solution. Where is Naruto now? We lost visual, Lord Hokage. You lost a 6-year-old. The tracking teams reported that his chakra signature is inconsistent. It does not read as chakra. Our sensors describe it as a wall of static shaped like a boy. We are currently conducting a sweep of the residential district. Hiruzen closed his eyes. Find him. Do not engage. Do not touch him. Do not speak to him unless he speaks first. Bring him Dango. Sir? He likes Dango. Bring him Dango. As much as you can carry. And for the love of every Hokage who has ever lived, do not refuse him food. Cat bowed and vanished. Hiruzen sat alone in his office and stared at the wall. Minato's portrait stared back at him with that calm, confident smile. The smile of a man who had sealed the nine-tailed fox into his own son because he believed the village would see a hero. Minato, Hiruzen whispered, what did we seal inside your boy? The portrait did not answer. Hiruzen had a terrible suspicion that even Minato had not known. The next 4 years were the quietest and most terrifying in Konoha's history. Naruto stayed, not because anyone made him stay. The concept of making Naruto do anything had been quietly, unanimously retired from all strategic planning after the chocolate incident, as it came to be known in classified Anbu files. He stayed because the Ichiraku ramen stand existed, and Old Man Tucci made the best miso ramen Naruto had ever tasted. And as long as that ramen kept flowing, the village kept standing. Tochi never knew he was the only reason Konoha survived. Nobody told him. Nobody wanted to put that pressure on a noodle chef. Naruto went to the academy, not because anyone enrolled him. He just showed up one day because he saw other kids going inside and he was bored. He sat in the back of Iruka's classroom and ate snacks he materialized out of thin air. Iruka tried to teach him. Naruto responded to questions in broken third-person sentences that made Iruka's left eye twitch. Naruto, what is the first Hokage's name? Tree Man. That's technically not wrong, but Naruto bored. When is lunch? It's 8:15 in the morning. Lunch should be now. He did not learn Jutsu. He did not need Jutsu. He sat in class and vibrated with barely contained energy and occasionally stretched his arm across 3 rows of desks to steal Choji's chips, his arm extending like a pink rubber band and snapping back with the bag, while Choji sat there in open-mouthed, crumb-covered shock. The other students were afraid of him. Not openly, not in a way you could point to and name. It was more like the way animals know to avoid a particular stretch of forest. Instinct. Sasuke Uchiha, brooding prodigy, last loyal Uchiha, top of the class, sat in the same row as Naruto exactly once. Naruto turned to look at him. Those black and pink eyes scanned Sasuke's face with the detached curiosity of something examining a new species of insect. "Emo boy looks crunchy," Naruto said. Sasuke requested a seat change and never sat within 15 feet of Naruto again. Sakura Haruno, who was terrified of everything loud and strange and pink, once accidentally bumped into Naruto in the hallway. His body rippled where she touched him, like she had poked a water balloon full of warm pudding. She looked at her hand, looked at him. Naruto grinned. "Pink hair." "Naruto likes pink." Sakura smiled nervously. "Thank you?" Pink is Naruto's color. Naruto is the best pink. He said this with such absolute sincerity that Sakura just nodded and walked away very quickly, and from that day forward gave Naruto a wide berth, which he did not notice because he was already thinking about lunch. Shikamaru Nara, because he was Shikamaru Nara, was the first student to figure it out. He did not tell anyone. He did not raise his hand in class and say, "Sensei, I believe our classmate may be an unkillable eldritch entity capable of transmuting matter." He simply looked at Naruto one day with those half-lidded, everything is troublesome eyes, and then looked at the clouds outside the window, and quietly rearranged his entire life plan around never being in a room alone with that boy. Hinata Hyuga watched Naruto from a distance, as she always had in every timeline and every universe, but even her all-seeing Byakugan flinched when she tried to read his chakra network. She saw something underneath, something pink and endless and alive that pulsed with a heartbeat too old and too vast to belong to a child. She fainted, not from shyness, from terror. Nobody noticed the difference. The years passed. Naruto ate. Naruto hummed. Naruto wandered through Konoha like a cheerful pink-antennaed hurricane that had decided to take a vacation in a papier-mâché village. Occasionally, he would get bored and stretch his body into strange shapes just to amuse himself, inflating his head like a balloon, stretching his arm to grab things from across the street, once flattening himself completely into a pink pancake to slide under the door of the dango shop when it was closed. The shop owner found him inside in the morning, surrounded by empty trays, covered in sweet sauce, sleeping on the counter like a satisfied cat. Nobody pressed charges. Nobody pressed anything. 3 Anbu squads were permanently assigned to what internal documents called Uzumaki containment observation, which was a very polite way of saying, watch the god creature and pray. They rotated shifts. They filed daily reports. The reports were always the same. Subject ate approximately 47 dango skewers. Subject sang a song about clouds for 37 minutes. Subject turned a stray cat into a cookie, then turned it back when it failed to taste good. Note: the cat appeared unharmed but has refused to go near the subject since. Recommend monitoring the cat. No significant anomalies beyond the subject's baseline anomalous existence. And for 4 years, this fragile, absurd, terrifying peace held, until the morning Naruto turned 10 and decided he wanted better snacks. It was a Tuesday. Naruto had eaten his way through Ichiraku's entire stock the previous night, and Tucci, who had the patience of a saint but the inventory of a mortal man, had told Naruto the new shipment of noodles would not arrive until Thursday. Naruto's bottom lip trembled. But Naruto hungry now. I know, buddy, but now. Thursday, Naruto, I promise. Naruto stared at Tucci. Tochi smiled that warm, grandfatherly smile that had kept Konoha from becoming a crater for 4 years. Naruto's lips stopped trembling. He pouted. Fine. Naruto, go find food somewhere else. That's a great idea. There are lots of far away. Naruto bored of this village. Snacks here are weak. Tochi's smile froze, not because of the insult to Konoha's culinary scene, because of the implication. Naruto, maybe you should talk to the Hokage before. But Naruto was already walking as he walked out of Ichiraku's. He walked down the main street. He walked past the academy, past the Hokage Tower, past the residential district, past the training grounds. He walked with the kind of cheerful, purposeful stride that said, I am going somewhere, and nothing in this world or any other is going to stop me. He walked straight toward the main gate. The gate guards saw him coming. They had read the memos. They had attended the mandatory briefings. They knew exactly what the small blonde boy with the pink antenna was, and they knew exactly what their orders were. Do not engage. They also knew that the standing protocol for an unscheduled departure of a jinchuriki was immediate Anbu interception and escort back to the village. These two directives were about to have a head-on collision. "Uzumaki!" one of the gate guards called out, stepping forward with one hand raised and the other very carefully not near his weapons. "You can't just..." Naruto walked past him like he did not exist. The guard, to his eternal credit, did not pursue. He slammed the emergency signal. 30 seconds later, 4 Anbu appeared. Full tactical gear, porcelain masks, swords drawn. They landed in a perfect diamond formation directly in Naruto's path, 10 feet outside the gate. The captain, codenamed Hawk, a 15-year veteran of Black Ops, a man who had killed missing men in their sleep and not blinked, raised one hand. "Naruto Uzumaki. By order of the 3rd Hokage, all shinobi of the leaf are restricted from leaving the village without authorization. Please return to..." Naruto kept walking. "Uzumaki. Stop." Naruto kept walking. Hawk made a decision. It was the wrong decision, but he did not know that yet. Restrain him. 2 Anbu moved. They were fast. Genuinely fast. Jonin-level speed, chakra enhanced, closing from both flanks in a pincer that would have caught any normal target before they could react. Their hands passed through Naruto's shoulders, not around, through. Their fingers sank into his body, like pushing into warm dough, and came out the other side covered in a thin layer of pink residue that smelled faintly of bubblegum. Naruto did not slow down, did not flinch, did not acknowledge the 2 elite assassins who currently had their arms embedded in his torso. The Anbu pulled their arms free with a wet sucking sound. They stumbled back. The pink residue on their gloves was warm and pulsing. What the? Hawk drew his sword. It was reflex. Pure, trained, hardwired reflex. He swung, the blade hit Naruto's neck. It did not cut. The steel sank into his flesh like striking a wall of rubber cement. Deformed an inch deep and stopped. Naruto turned his head, the sword still embedded in his neck, and looked at Hawk with those black and pink eyes. "Sword is boring," Naruto said. He reached up, flicked the blade with one finger. The steel shattered into fragments that spun through the air and embedded in a nearby tree. Then Naruto looked at the other 3 swords. His antenna glowed for the briefest moment, and before any of the Anbu could move, 3 beams of pink light struck their blades in rapid succession. The swords turned into licorice. Red licorice, long, twisted, floppy ropes of it hanging from their hands where katanas had been a second ago. Hawk looked at his licorice, looked at his squad holding licorice, looked at Naruto, who was already walking away down the road, humming that same tuneless song. "Stand down," Hawk said quietly. "Captain, I said stand down. We're done here." They stood at the gate, 4 of the most dangerous people in Konoha, holding candy where their weapons used to be, and watched a 10-year-old boy disappear down the road. Hawk's report to the Hokage was 3 sentences long. Subject departed the village at 0800 hours via the main gate. Interception attempted. Interception failed. Subject turned our weapons into confections and continued on foot heading east. Recommend updating protocol to observation only, no contact, maintain distance of 500 meters minimum. Further recommend a village-wide supply of high-quality desserts be maintained at all times as a strategic deterrent. Hiruzen read the report. He put it down. He picked up his pipe. He put the pipe down. He picked up the report again. He read the last line one more time. A village-wide supply of high-quality desserts be maintained at all times as a strategic deterrent. The 3rd Hokage, the god of shinobi, the professor, the man who knew every jutsu in Konoha's arsenal, sat in his office and stared at those words and felt, for the first time in his career, completely and hopelessly outmatched. He sent a messenger hawk to every allied outpost in Fire Country. The message was brief. Blonde boy, age 10, blue eyes, made of pink-black, antenna-like appendage on head. If encountered, do not engage. Offer food. Back away slowly. Report location immediately. Under no circumstances attempt to capture, restrain, or attack. This is not a request. This is a survival guideline. Konoha did not speak of Naruto's departure publicly. There was no announcement, no emergency session. The council met behind closed doors and had a conversation that the minutes simply recorded as extended silence followed by adjournment. The village moved on. The sun rose and set. Missions were assigned. Students graduated. Life continued. But there was a hole in Konoha now. Not a physical one, a conceptual one. The vague gut-level understanding that somewhere out there, walking through the world with a smile and a bottomless stomach, was something that could end everything. And there was nothing any of them could do about it. They chose not to think about it. This was the smartest decision Konoha had made in decades. The shinobi world is large, sprawling. 5 great nations, dozens of minor ones, hundreds of villages, thousands of miles of forest and mountain and desert and coast. There are bandits in every border region, missing nin in every shadow, wars and skirmishes and tensions simmering perpetually between people who have been fighting so long they have forgotten why. Into this world walked Naruto Uzumaki. He was hungry. The first incident happened 6 days after he left Konoha, on a trade route between the land of fire and the land of rivers. A group of 12 bandits, mercenaries really, ex-samurai and dishonored ronin, who made their living shaking down merchant caravans, set up a roadblock on a narrow forest path and waited for their next score. What they got was a small blonde boy in a dirty orange tracksuit with a pink antenna, walking alone, eating a stick of dango he had turned a pine cone into. Hey kid, the bandit leader, a scarred man named Gouda with a missing ear and a mean disposition, stepped out from behind a tree. Wrong road. Toll is everything you got. Naruto looked at him. Looked at the 11 other men emerging from the tree line with swords and clubs and ugly grins. Naruto doesn't have money, Naruto said. Naruto has dango. Then the toll is the dango, brat. No. Gouda grabbed for the dango. Naruto's free hand shot forward and caught Gouda's wrist. The grip was immovable. Gouda, 6'2", 230 pounds of scarred muscle, could not move his arm. He pulled, he twisted, he braced his feet and heaved with everything he had. The boy's hand did not budge. Naruto took another bite of dango with his other hand, chewed, swallowed. Let go, you little. Naruto squeezed. The bones in Gouda's wrist shattered like dry pasta. The crack echoed through the forest. Gouda screamed. His men charged. What happened next took approximately 4 seconds. Naruto's antenna glowed. He swept his gaze across the clearing. Casual, lazy, the way a lighthouse sweeps across a shore, and the transfiguration beam fired in a wide, scything arc. Turn into gummy bears. 12 bandits, 12 flashes of pink light, 12 pops of displaced air. 12 gummy bears, assorted colors, assorted flavors, fell to the forest floor where 12 armed men had been standing. Naruto gathered them up in his hands, popped 3 in his mouth at once, chewed. Grape ones are best. He ate them all and kept walking. A merchant caravan found the abandoned roadblock the next morning. 12 sets of weapons and clothing were scattered on the ground in a rough circle. No bodies, no blood, no tracks leading away. Just empty boots and dropped swords and a faint, inexplicable scent of sugar in the air. The merchants did not report it. They did not know what to report, but the rumors started. The second incident was in a port town called Degarashi, on the southern coast of the land of tea. Naruto had arrived because someone on the road told him the town had the best taiyaki in the country. He walked in through the front gate at noon, bought 7 taiyaki with coins he had turned pebbles into. They were real gold, structurally perfect, molecularly indistinguishable from the genuine article because his power did not half do anything, and sat on the pier eating with his legs dangling over the water. A team of 3 mist ninja found him there. They were chunin, dispatched from Kirigakure on a routine intelligence gathering mission in neutral territory. They did not know who Naruto was. They saw a child sitting alone on a pier with a fleshy antenna on his head and made the catastrophic error of assuming he was a target of opportunity. Grab the kid, the team leader muttered. Weird bloodline limit. Might be worth something. They moved. Water release. Water dragon jutsu. A dragon of compressed seawater 30 feet long erupted from the harbor and slammed into Naruto from behind. The impact sent a plume of spray 50 feet high and blasted a section of the pier into splinters. When the water settled, Naruto was still sitting in the same position. Soaking wet, his taiyaki was ruined, soggy. Falling apart in his hands, he looked at the destroyed taiyaki. His expression went flat. "My fish cake," he said. The mist team moved to flank him. The leader formed hand signs. Water release, water bullet jutsu. 3 compressed spheres of water shot toward Naruto at killing velocity. They hit him in the chest and face and shoulder. They punched holes clean through him. 3 perfect circles in his torso, daylight visible through them, harbor water splashing out the back. The mist ninja paused. The holes closed. The pink flesh rolled inward like dough being kneaded, sealed, and smoothed itself flat. Naruto stood up, dripping wet, taiyaki paste sliding off his hands. "That was Naruto's favorite fish cake," he said. His voice was quiet. The antenna was glowing. "Naruto is mad now." "What the hell?" "Transfiguration beam." 3 beams, 3 hits. 3 mist chunin became 3 beautiful red bean taiyaki, golden brown and steaming, falling to the wet pier with soft thumps. Naruto picked one up, inspected it, took a bite. "This one is better than the one you ruined." He ate all 3. He sat on the pier and watched the sunset and kicked his feet over the water and hummed. The port town of Degarashi quietly struck the incident from all official records and spread the word among merchant captains. If you see a blonde boy with a pink antenna, feed him. Give him whatever he wants. Charge him nothing. Tell him your town has the best sweets. Send him somewhere else. This became known in the informal intelligence networks of the minor nations as the Taiyaki Protocol. The incidents escalated. In the land of Earth, Naruto wandered into a small mining town that was controlled by a rogue band of missing nin who used the miners as slave labor. Naruto did not care about the slaves. He cared about the yakitori stand in the town square that smelled amazing. The missing nin, 7 of them, B rank at minimum, demanded to know who he was. Naruto said, "Naruto is Naruto," and reached for a yakitori skewer. The leader slapped his hand away. Bad move. Naruto turned the leader into a yakitori skewer, grilled chicken and onion, beautifully glazed, still wearing a tiny headband, and ate him in 2 bites. The remaining 6 attacked with everything they had. Earth release, lightning release, explosive tags, a summoning jutsu that produced a 15-foot armored lizard. Naruto tanked all of it. The earth jutsu crumbled against his body. The lightning tickled. The explosive tags blew pieces off him that crawled back on their own, each piece of severed flesh moving independently across the ground like sentient bubblegum, reattaching to his body with soft, wet sounds. The armored lizard bit him. Its teeth got stuck in his rubbery skin. It panicked. Naruto laughed. "Transfiguration beam!" The lizard became a mochi ball the size of a small house. The 6 remaining missing nin became an assortment of candy, lollipops, chocolate truffles, a gingerbread man that looked suspiciously like it was screaming. Naruto ate everything. The miners were free. They cheered. Naruto did not hear the cheering because he was busy eating. The story spread. In the land of wind, a sand merchant caravan was attacked by a B-rank missing nin named Satsuma, a former Suna shinobi who could control sand puppets. Naruto happened to be walking the same road. Satsuma sent a sand puppet at him. Naruto grabbed the puppet, bit its head off, spat it out because sand tasted bad, and then pointed his antenna at Satsuma with a look of personal offense. "Sand tastes bad. You taste bad." He turned Satsuma into a bag of sugar and poured it into his mouth. The caravan leader fell to his knees and offered Naruto anything he wanted. Naruto asked for directions to the nearest dango shop. The caravan leader gave him directions, his life savings, and a heartfelt prayer of thanks. Naruto took the directions and left the money because he could make his own. In the land of water, on a misty archipelago between the mainland and wave country, Naruto encountered a genuine sea monster, a massive chakra-mutated eel that had been terrorizing fishing villages for years. It was 60 feet long. Its mouth was lined with rows of teeth the length of a man's forearm. It lunged out of the fog and swallowed Naruto whole. 3 seconds later, the eel exploded from the inside. Naruto burst through its stomach wall, covered in digestive fluid and grinning ear to ear, and fired the transfiguration beam at the flailing remains. The eel became the largest unagi sushi platter in recorded history. Naruto sat on the beach and ate for 3 hours. A fishing village watched from a safe distance and debated whether to build him a shrine. They built the shrine. Naruto never came back to see it, but the shrine still stands. And everywhere he went, the legend grew. Merchants whispered. Fishermen told tales over drinks. Intelligence operatives filed coded reports with increasing levels of disbelief. The story was always the same, but nobody believed it. A boy, a pink antenna, beams of light that turned people into food. A body made of something that was not flesh and could not be destroyed. Names accumulated like sediment. The pink demon, the boy who eats, the walking appetite, the candy monster. And in Konoha, Hiruzen Sarutobi sat in his office and read every report and felt the slow, grinding weight of a truth he could not escape. Naruto Uzumaki was not a jinchuriki, not really. The Kyuubi was sealed inside him, yes. But the Kyuubi was not the thing the world should be afraid of. The thing the world should be afraid of was Naruto himself. And he was loose. 4 years. That is how long Naruto wandered. 4 years of eating his way across the shinobi world like a one-boy buffet apocalypse. He crossed the land of fire, the land of earth, the land of wind, the land of water, and every minor nation in between. He followed food the way a compass follows north. He had no plan, no ambition, no goal beyond the next meal. He turned bandits into candy. He turned missing nin into pastries. He turned dangerous wildlife into sushi. He left no wreckage, no burned villages, no collateral damage, unless someone attacked him first. And even then the damage was limited to whoever was stupid enough to start it. He was not a villain. He was not a hero. He was a natural disaster that happened to really like sweets. By the time he turned 14, the intelligence agencies of 3 great nations had files on him. The files were classified at the highest level and contained the same conclusion, independently reached and identically phrased across cultures and languages. Do not engage. This was the state of the world when 2 S-rank criminals found him in a clearing in the land of rivers, and everything, truly, catastrophically, irreversibly everything, changed. Itachi Uchiha and Kasame Hoshigaki walked through the forest in their standard formation. Itachi 3 steps ahead, Sharingan scanning, Kasame behind with Samehada on his shoulder, grinning the permanent grin of a man who solved every problem with the same oversized sword. Their mission was simple. The Akatsuki wanted the 9 tails. Intelligence placed the jinchuriki somewhere in the neutral zone between the land of fire and the land of rivers. Find him, capture him, bring him in. The kid's been off the grid for 4 years, Kasame said, scratching the side of his blue-gray face. You think he's gotten strong? Itachi said nothing. He had read the reports. All of them. Every intelligence brief from every nation that his network of informants could acquire. He had read about the bandits who became gummy bears, the missing nin who became yakitori, the sea monster that became sushi. He had read the incident reports in a language that intelligence analysts use when they are trying very hard to sound professional while describing events that violated the fundamental laws of reality. He had not told Kasame about the reports. This was, in hindsight, a mistake. They found Naruto in a clearing by a stream, sitting cross-legged on a flat rock, surrounded by a small mountain of dango skewers. He was eating. The dango had not existed an hour ago. Naruto had pointed at a pile of rocks and they had become dango. This is what he did now. He turned things into food. The world was his kitchen. He was bigger than the last time anyone from Konoha had seen him. 14 years old, lean, his blonde hair longer and wilder, his orange tracksuit replaced with a loose pink GI that he had materialized himself. The antenna on his head was longer now too. A full, curving tendril of pink flesh that arched forward over his forehead and bobbed slightly when he moved. His eyes, when he looked up at the 2 approaching figures, were immediately, shockingly wrong. Black sclera, pink irises, the eyes of something wearing a human face like a mask it found interesting. Oh, Naruto said, a dango skewer hanging from his mouth. People. Kisame stepped forward. He did not introduce himself. He did not monologue. He was Kisame Hoshigaki, the monster of the mist, and he had killed more people than most shinobi had met. He unshouldered Samehada. The sentient sword chittered and writhed, its scales bristling, sensing the enormous energy radiating from the boy. 9 tails jinchuriki, Kasame said. You're coming with us. Naruto tilted his head. Naruto is eating. You can eat later. No, Naruto eats now. Wrong answer, kid. Kasame moved. He was fast, terrifyingly fast for a man his size, S-rank speed honed by decades of killing. He closed the distance in a blink. Samehada came down in a diagonal slash aimed at Naruto's left shoulder. A blow that would shave through armor and bone and chakra alike. A blow that had ended dozens of lives and would end dozens more. The blade hit. Naruto's left arm came off at the shoulder. Clean. The severed limb hit the grass with a meaty thud. Samehada chittered in triumph. Kasame grinned wider. Too easy. The arm on the ground moved, not twitched, moved. It turned pink, the whole thing, skin and muscle and bone, dissolving into a uniform mass of glistening bubblegum pink goo. It contracted into a ball with no eyes, no features, no anything that should have suggested intention or awareness. And yet it moved with perfect, terrible purpose. It launched itself at Kasame's face. Kasame, to his credit, had the reflexes to bring Samehada up. The pink blob went around the sword. It hit his face. It sealed over his nose and mouth and eyes like a living mask of warm, pulsing rubber. Kasame grabbed at it. His fingers sank in and could not find purchase. He pulled. It stretched. He pulled harder. It stretched further. It was not coming off. It was warm. It smelled like sugar. Kasame could not breathe. Meanwhile, Naruto looked at the stump of his left shoulder with the mild curiosity of a man who had noticed a spot on his shirt. The exposed cross-section was not meat and bone. It was solid pink, uniform, glistening, the color of bubblegum, and the consistency of something between rubber and flesh. It bubbled. It swelled. It grew. In 2 seconds, a new arm extended from the stump. Fingers, elbow, wrist, all of it, and settled into place with a wet pop that echoed across the clearing. Naruto flexed his new fingers, nodded, satisfied. He looked at Kasame, who was on his knees now, clawing at his face. Samehada dropped and forgotten, the monster of the mist suffocating under a blob of pink matter that used to be a little boy's arm. Naruto tilted his head. Shark Man looks tasty. The antenna glowed. Transfiguration beam! The beam was tight, precise, a solid rod of pink energy the width of a fist. It struck Kasame in the center of his chest. The effect was instantaneous. Kasame's massive, muscular, blue-skinned body seized. His flailing arms locked at his sides. His form compressed. His features melted and reformed. Color shifted. Blue-gray became swirling patterns of blue and white and silver. Mass redistributed. Shape changed. In the space between one heartbeat and the next, Kasame Hoshigaki, the tireless-tailed beast, member of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, S-rank criminal, partner of Itachi Uchiha, became a jawbreaker. A massive, perfectly round jawbreaker the size of a bowling ball, swirling with blue and gray and faint hints of purple, sitting on the grass where a 7-foot killing machine had been standing. Naruto walked over, picked it up with both hands. It was heavy. He inspected it, turning it this way and that. The swirling colors were actually kind of pretty. He shrugged. He opened his mouth, way too wide, his jaw unhinging with a rubbery creak, and put the entire jawbreaker in his mouth. Crunch. The sound was catastrophic, wet and hard and final, like a boulder being dropped into a quarry, like every bone breaking at once, like the universe slamming a door shut. Naruto chewed. His cheeks bulged comically. Pink and blue saliva dripped down his chin. He swallowed. His throat bulged as the mass went down. He licked his lips. Crunchy. He sat back down on his rock and picked up another dango skewer. Itachi Uchiha had not moved. He stood at the edge of the clearing, Sharingan spinning, and watched. He had watched the entire thing. His Sharingan had tracked every microsecond of it. The regeneration, the amorphous blob, the beam, the transmutation, the consumption. His eyes had recorded everything in perfect 3-tomo clarity. His brain could not process any of it. The Sharingan was the eye of insight, the eye that saw through deception, read muscle movements, predicted attacks, copied Jutsu. It was the most powerful analytical tool in the shinobi world. Itachi's Sharingan was the most powerful Sharingan. He had used it to slaughter his entire clan in a single night. He had used it to defeat Orochimaru with a glance. He had used it to see through every lie, every technique, every defense. It could not see through this. The Sharingan was showing him what was happening. Cellular regeneration at a speed and completeness that defied biology. Energy conversion that defied physics. Matter transmutation that defied chemistry. A body that was not a body in any meaningful sense. Not cells, not chakra, not organic matter as any scientific framework understood it. The boy in front of him was made of something that the Sharingan had no category for. Something that predated chakra. Something that the eye of the sage's bloodline looked at and returned only static. Itachi's hands were shaking. He did not notice. Naruto looked at him. Those black and pink eyes, that smile. Oh, there's another one. Itachi made his decision instantly. Mangekyo Sharingan, both eyes. The tomoe spun and merged into three-pointed pinwheel pattern that had only been awakened through the deepest suffering. His left eye focused, reality bent. Amaterasu. Black flames erupted across Naruto's body. The flames of the sun goddess, the fire that burned everything, the fire that could not be extinguished, that would burn for 7 days and 7 nights, that consumed chakra and matter equally, that had never failed to destroy its target in the entire history of the Uchiha clan. Naruto was engulfed. He shrieked, "Hot! Hot!" He jumped up from his rock. The dango fell. He flailed his arms. Black fire covered him head to toe, his entire body a silhouette of absolute eternal flame. Then he stopped flailing. He looked down at himself, cocked his head and peeled his own skin off. It came away like a jacket. He grabbed the flaming outer layer of his body, the skin, the surface tissue, all of it, and pulled it off in one smooth motion, like removing a onesie. Underneath was fresh, pink, glistening new skin, already formed, already perfect. He held the old skin at arm's length, a burning, crackling sheet of pink matter wreathed in black flame, rolled it into a ball the way you might crumple a piece of paper, and chucked it sideways. It sailed through the air, trailing Amaterasu like a comet, and hit the stream. The stream exploded. A column of steam and black fire shot 60 feet into the air. Water flash boiled. Rock melted. Trees within 30 feet caught the black flame and began to burn with the eternal, unquenchable fire of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Naruto stood in the clearing, completely unharmed, wearing a new layer of skin that was still slightly wet and glistening. He patted himself down, checked his antenna, wiggled his fingers. He turned to Itachi with a massive, delighted grin. "Let's play more." Itachi ran. He did not strategize. He did not feign retreat. He did not leave a shadow clone as a distraction. Uchiha Itachi, the man who had never shown fear, who had walked into a clan compound full of his own family and walked out alone, who had stared down Orochimaru in pain and every horror the shinobi world could produce, turned on his heel and ran, body flicker. Maximum output. The trees blurred into streaks. He moved at a speed that most shinobi could not track, bouncing between branches, putting distance between himself and the clearing, as fast as the laws of physics allowed. Behind him, he heard a giggle. "Bye-bye, I-Man. Come play again." Itachi did not come play again. He ran for 6 hours straight. He did not stop. He did not eat. He did not sleep. He ran until his lungs burned and his Sharingan ached and his body screamed for rest, and then he ran some more. He arrived at the Akatsuki's current base, a hidden cave system in the land of rain. At dawn, he walked through the entrance, past Zetsu, past Deidara, past Sasori, past everyone, and went directly to the deepest chamber where the holographic form of Pain, the Rinnegan wielder, the god of Ame, the leader of the Akatsuki, waited. Pain looked at him. The Rinnegan, the eyes of God, the most powerful dojutsu in existence, saw the state Itachi was in and said nothing. He waited. "Kasame is dead," Itachi said. "How?" "He was turned into a jawbreaker and eaten." Silence. "Explain," Pain said. Itachi explained. He was precise, clinical. He described the regeneration, the sentient severed limb, the beam, the transmutation, the consumption of Kasame, the failure of Amaterasu. He did not embellish. He did not exaggerate. He reported facts. The chamber was very quiet when he finished. Pain's Rinnegan stared. The legendary eyes that had seen every jutsu, every technique, every manifestation of chakra that had existed since the Sage of Six Paths. The eyes of a man who called himself God. "This beam," Pain said slowly, "it converts matter." "It converts everything," Itachi corrected. "Living tissue, chakra constructs, samahara, which is a sentient weapon, was converted along with Kasame. The beam does not distinguish between categories of matter. It does not interact with chakra defenses. It rewrites reality at a level that the Sharingan cannot analyze." "And Amaterasu?" "He peeled off his own burning skin and regrew a new body underneath. The process took approximately 3 seconds." More silence. Elsewhere in the base, Deidara, who had been eavesdropping, whispered to Sasori, "Did he just say the kid peeled off his own burning skin?" "Be quiet," Sasori replied, and for the first time in decades, the puppet master who had removed his own heart and replaced it with a mechanism sounded unsettled. Pain spoke. "The Nine Tails Jinchuriki is to be reclassified. Effective immediately, all engagement protocols are suspended. No team is to approach, track, or communicate with the target. He is to be removed from the active capture list." "Removed?" Deidara stepped forward. Leader, with all due respect, we can't just... He ate Kasame. Yeah, but he ate Kasame, turned him into candy, and ate him, while making eye contact with Itachi. Deidara closed his mouth. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki is to be placed on a new list, Pain continued. Internal classification only. The list is called Do Not Engage. The target is the sole entry. So we just pretend he doesn't exist? Hidan's voice came from somewhere in the back, dripping with his usual manic energy. Yes, Pain said. That is exactly what we do. And if he finds us? Pain's Rinnegan flickered. For one instant, one tiny, almost imperceptible instant, the god of aim looked uncertain. Run, Pain said. The Akatsuki did not discuss Naruto again. His name was not spoken at meetings. His file was sealed. Zetsu, who monitored everything, was given explicit instructions to track the boy's movements from maximum distance and route all Akatsuki operations around his location with a minimum buffer zone of 100 miles. The most dangerous criminal organization in the shinobi world drew a circle on its map and wrote inside it, "Here be dragon. Do not enter." And somewhere in the land of rivers, a 14-year-old boy sat in a destroyed clearing, surrounded by the craters and black flames of a fight he had barely noticed, eating dango and humming. He was still hungry. He was always hungry. Word travels fast in the shinobi world. Faster when the word is terrifying. Within a week of the Akatsuki encounter, every major intelligence network in the 5 nations had an updated file on the Pink Demon. The details varied. Some reports exaggerated, some underestimated. Most simply failed to capture the absolute unreasonableness of what had actually happened. But the core facts were consistent. 2 S-rank criminals had engaged the target. One was consumed. One fled. Amaterasu, the highest level fire technique in the known world, had been defeated by the target removing his own skin. The Kazekage read the report and doubled the guard on Gaara. The Mizukage read the report and closed her borders. The Tsuchikage read the report, muttered something about kids these days, and quietly redirected 3 divisions away from the target's last known location. The Raikage read the report and threw his desk through a wall. We will come back to the Raikage. Oh, we will absolutely come back to the Raikage. But first, Orochimaru. Orochimaru was many things. A genius, a traitor, a body thief, a snake in every sense, literal, metaphorical, spiritual. He had been a student of the 3rd Hokage, a member of the legendary Sannin, a wanted criminal in every nation, and the founder of the Hidden Sound Village. He had experimented on children. He had created monsters. He had stolen bodies and worn them like suits. He had pursued immortality with the single-minded obsession of a man who had looked death in the face and decided death was wrong. He was also, and this is the important part, absolutely incapable of leaving dangerous things alone. When the intelligence about the Pink Demon reached him, and it reached him fast, because Orochimaru's spy network was second only to Jiraiya's and considerably less ethical, his golden snake eyes lit up with the particular gleam that Kabuto had learned to dread. Fascinating, Orochimaru murmured, reading the report in his underground laboratory. Matter transmutation without hand seals. Instantaneous regeneration at the cellular level. A body composition that doesn't register as organic tissue. He licked his lips. His tongue was very long and very thin, and it made the gesture deeply unsettling. I must have a sample. Lord Orochimaru, Kabuto said carefully, adjusting his glasses. The subject neutralized 2 S-rank shinobi in under 30 seconds. Perhaps a more cautious approach. Cautious? Kabuto, this boy represents the single greatest biological anomaly in the history of the shinobi world. If I can extract even a fragment of his cellular material, the applications would be limitless. Regeneration, transmutation, physical malleability, the potential for a truly immortal body. With respect, the last people who tried to extract something from him were turned into food. Orochimaru smiled. It was the smile of a man who had never been prey. They lacked the proper incentive. Every creature, no matter how powerful, has a weakness, an exploitable desire. He turned to Kabuto. What does the subject want more than anything? Kabuto consulted the file. It took him approximately 4 seconds. Food, Lord Orochimaru. Specifically, sweets. Orochimaru's smile widened. The letter arrived 3 days later. Naruto found it pinned to a tree with a kunai, a sealed scroll wrapped in a pink ribbon, addressed in elegant calligraphy to the esteemed pink demon, bearer of the great appetite, most powerful eater in the known world. Naruto could not read most of the kanji, but he got the general idea. Someone was complimenting him. He liked that. He opened the scroll. The message was written in large, simple characters with helpful illustrations. Dear Naruto, I have heard of your magnificent appetite and wish to offer a tribute of the finest sweets in all the lands. I have prepared for you an endless feast of the most exquisite cake, pudding, mochi, and all the sweets in the world. Unlimited, forever, yours. Please come to the address drawn on the back of this scroll. The feast begins the moment you arrive. Your admirer, a friend. At the bottom, someone had drawn a crude but recognizable picture of a cake with the word "Yum" written above it in sparkly ink. Naruto read it. His eyes went wide. His antenna stood straight up. His pupils dilated so far that the pink irises almost disappeared into the black. "Cake!" he shouted. "Unlimited cake! Forever!" He was clapping, actually clapping, bouncing on his feet, antenna waving, a look of pure, transcendent joy on his face. A bird in a nearby tree took flight in terror. He looked at the map on the back. The address was in the land of sound, which was far, but Naruto did not care. Naruto did not care about distance. Naruto cared about cake. He arrived the next day, the hidden sound village, or rather, Orochimaru's primary underground laboratory complex beneath it, was a sprawling network of tunnels and chambers carved into the earth, reinforced walls, sealed doors, containment barriers. The most advanced shinobi science facility in the world, staffed by hundreds of Orochimaru's loyal subordinates and test subjects. Naruto walked in through the front entrance. There was no subtlety. The sensors detected him. The guards saw him. A small blonde boy with a pink antenna, practically vibrating with excitement, marching through the corridors with the determined stride of someone who had been promised cake and intended to collect. "Where's the cake?" Naruto demanded of the first sound ninja he encountered. The ninja, a pale-skinned guard with a curse mark on his neck, looked at Naruto, looked at his antenna, looked at the memo that had been circulated that morning. "Do not impede the subject. Direct him to Laboratory 3. Lord Orochimaru's orders," and pointed down the hall. "That way." "Cake!" Naruto shouted and sprinted. He reached Laboratory 3 in 45 seconds, leaving a trail of confused sound ninja in his wake. The door was massive, reinforced steel, sealed with 3 layers of barrier jutsu, the kind of door designed to contain Biju-level threats. Naruto pushed it open with one hand. The hinges screamed. The barrier seals crackled and shattered. The 3-foot-thick steel slab swung open like a bedroom door. Inside, the laboratory was enormous, clinical, white walls, fluorescent lighting, banks of equipment and monitoring stations in sealed containers. In the center of the room, standing behind a surgical table covered in gleaming instruments, was Orochimaru. He looked exactly like he always did. Pale, serpentine, golden eyes, purple markings, the kind of face that makes children cry and makes adults wish they were children so they had an excuse. "Welcome, Naruto-kun," Orochimaru said, spreading his arms in a gesture of welcome. His voice was silk over venom. "I have been expecting you." Naruto looked around the lab, the clinical white walls, the surgical instruments, the complete and total absence of any baked goods. "Where's the cake?" Naruto asked. "Ah, yes, the cake. It's being prepared as we speak. But first, where is the cake? First, I'd like to..." "You said cake." "Patience, Naruto-kun. I merely wish to conduct a small exam." Naruto's antenna twitched. His smile faded, not gradually, like a switch being flipped. One moment he was a happy, cake-excited boy. The next, his face was flat. His black eyes were wide. His pink irises were glowing. "You said unlimited cake. Forever. Yours." Naruto's voice dropped. "Where is the cake?" Orochimaru, operating on the assumption that he was still the most dangerous thing in this room, pressed forward. "The cake will come after we..." "There is no cake," Naruto said. "Flat. Dead. You lied." For the first time, Orochimaru noticed the temperature in the room rising. "Now, Naruto-kun, I wouldn't say lied exactly. You lied about cake." Steam erupted from the holes on top of Naruto's head, vents that hadn't been visible before, small openings in his skull that hissed with superheated vapor. His skin, always slightly pink beneath the surface, was turning fully pink now, the human pigmentation sloughing away to reveal the true color underneath. His muscles swelled. His antenna stood rigid, pointing straight up. the tip glowing like a welding torch. Orochimaru's analytical mind, which had never encountered a problem it could not solve, performed a rapid cost-benefit analysis of the current situation and arrived at a conclusion that every intelligence agency in the world had already reached. This was a mistake. "Kabuto," Orochimaru said calmly, "activate the containment barrier." Kabuto, watching from a monitoring station behind reinforced glass, slammed his hand on a console. 4 walls of purple chakra surged up from seal arrays embedded in the floor, enclosing Naruto in a cube of concentrated barrier energy. The 4 violet flames formation, Orochimaru's modified version, strong enough to contain a tailed beast. Naruto stood inside the barrier. The purple light reflected off his pink skin. He was not looking at the barrier. He was looking at Orochimaru. "Now then," Orochimaru said, approaching the barrier with a chakra scalpel glowing green on his right hand. "Let's see what you're made of." He pressed the scalpel against the barrier's surface. The barrier transmitted the cutting edge inward, focusing it on Naruto's outstretched arm. The blade touched his skin. It shattered. The chakra scalpel, a medical technique refined by Orochimaru himself over decades of practice, sharp enough to cut through steel, precise enough to sever individual nerve fibers, broke against Naruto's skin like glass hitting stone. Fragments of green chakra scattered across the barrier's interior and dissolved. Orochimaru stared at the broken technique on his hand. Naruto stared at Orochimaru. And then slowly, deliberately, steam pouring from his head vents in thick white columns, Naruto Uzumaki said the words that would end the hidden sound village. "I hate liars! Vice shout!" He opened his mouth. The sound that came out was not a scream. It was not a voice. It was a frequency, a vibration so deep and so total that it existed below hearing and above physics. It was the sound of reality being told to move, and reality obeying. The containment barrier did not crack. It did not weaken. It vaporized. The purple chakra walls exploded outward in a shockwave of displaced energy that blew out every window, every monitor, every light fixture in the laboratory. The surgical table flew across the room and embedded in the wall. Equipment racks toppled like dominoes. Kabuto, behind his reinforced glass, was thrown backward as the glass shattered inward and peppered him with fragments. But the vice shout did not stop at the laboratory. The shockwave traveled downward, through the floor, through the reinforced concrete and steel and earth. It hit the level below and kept going. Support pillars cracked, ceilings collapsed, corridors caved in. The entire underground complex, hundreds of rooms, dozens of levels, miles of tunnels, began to fold in on itself like a house of cards in an earthquake. Orochimaru felt the floor give way beneath his feet. He was falling. The entire laboratory was falling. The ceiling above was becoming the ceiling of the level above that, and the level above that was becoming rubble, and the rubble was becoming a cascade of destruction that was consuming his life's work one floor at a time. And through the chaos, through the dust and the screaming and the grinding collapse of an underground city dying around them, a door burst open and Kimimaro arrived. Kimimaro, the last of the Kaguya clan. Orochimaru's most loyal soldier. His bones were his weapons, harder than steel, sharper than any blade, growing from his body at will in any shape, any length, any configuration. He came through the door with bone blades erupting from every joint, every surface, a walking armory of skeletal death. And behind him came the rest. Tayuya with her flute, Jirobo, Kidomaru, Sakon and Ukon, the sound four, plus Orochimaru's elite guard, his best fighters, his last line of defense. They charged. Kimimaro led. Bone spears from his forearms, bone sword from his palm, shoulder blades erupting into razor-sharp wings. He crossed the distance to Naruto in a blink, a skeleton-armored killing machine moving at speeds that would make most jonin look stationary. Naruto did not look at them. He swept his antenna across the room, lazy, dismissive, like brushing crumbs off a table. Turn into cupcakes. Transfiguration beam. The beam came out wide this time. Not a single focused bolt, but a sweeping arc of pink energy that filled the room like a searchlight. It hit Kimimaro mid-charge. It hit Tayuya mid-note. It hit Jirobo, Kidomaru, Sakon, and Ukon all at once. 6 bodies seized, 6 forms compressed. 6 transformations occurred simultaneously, in perfect synchronization, in the time it takes a heart to beat once. 6 cupcakes fell to the crumbling floor. They were beautiful cupcakes, to be fair, each one unique. Kimimaro became a white cupcake with bone-white frosting and a decorative sugar bone on top. Tayuya was red velvet with a tiny fondant flute. Jirobo was a massive chocolate cupcake, easily twice the size of the others. Kidomaru was a golden cupcake with 6 little candy spider legs. Sakan and Ukon were a 2-tone vanilla chocolate swirl that was structurally a single cupcake with 2 decorative faces. Naruto scooped them all up. He did not examine them. He did not savor them. He shoved them into his mouth, all 6 at once, his jaw stretching grotesquely wide, his cheeks bulging like a chipmunk storing the entirety of autumn, and chewed with the aggressive, furious energy of a boy who had been promised cake and received betrayal. He swallowed. His throat bulged. The mask went down. He turned to Orochimaru. Orochimaru's face in that moment was a thing that deserved to be painted and hung in a gallery. The golden snake eyes were wide, fully, completely wide, in a way that Orochimaru's face was not supposed to move. His pale skin had gone a shade paler. His lip was slightly parted. The purple markings on his face seemed to stand out sharper, like his body was pulling blood away from his skin and into his core. The primitive biological response of an organism that has finally, belatedly, catastrophically realized that it is not the predator in this room. He had been afraid before. When the 3rd Hokage had used the Reaper Death Seal. When Itachi had caught him in a Genjutsu. Moments of fear, yes, but analytical fear, calculated fear. The fear of a genius who could see the mathematics of his own death and was already computing escape routes. This was different. This was the blank, white, static-filled fear of something his genius could not compute. There was no mathematics here, no analysis, no strategy that began with if I do X, then he will do Y and I can exploit Z. The boy standing in front of him had turned 6 elite warriors into pastries with a casual head movement. The boy's body defied cellular biology. His energy defied chakra theory. His existence defied every framework Orochimaru had spent 50 years constructing. Orochimaru was not looking at a shinobi. He was not looking at a jinchuriki. He was not looking at anything that fit into the taxonomy of threats he had spent his life mastering. He was looking at something that ate things. And he was a thing. Hidden shadow snake hands. Snakes exploded from Orochimaru's sleeves. Dozens of them, thick and fast and venomous. A writhing mass of scaled bodies lunging for Naruto's torso. They hit him. They wrapped around him. They squeezed. They bit. Their fangs sank into pink flesh and injected enough venom to kill 100 men. Naruto did not react. The snakes dissolved. Not died. Dissolved. Where their bodies touched his skin, the scales turned pink. The muscle turned soft. The snakes were being absorbed, pulled into Naruto's body like water being sucked into a sponge. Within seconds, every snake was gone. Naruto's body had consumed them without visible effort or acknowledgement. Orochimaru felt a chill that started in his spine and did not stop. He shed his skin. The oral rebirth technique, his signature escape, his body vomiting out a new copy of himself from the mouth of the old one, emerging fresh and unharmed. The old skin collapsed in a heap. The new Orochimaru was already moving, slithering. The body replacement technique at its highest level, his body liquefying and flowing through the cracks in the crumbling floor, trying to reach the emergency tunnels, trying to flee. A hand grabbed his throat. It had stretched 60 feet. Naruto's arm, elastic, pink, extending across the collapsing laboratory like a rubber band pulled to its absolute limit, had shot through the rubble and the dust and the dark and caught Orochimaru mid-slither. The fingers closed around his pale throat with the gentle, unstoppable pressure of a python. The arm retracted. Orochimaru was yanked back through the air, through the dust, through the collapse, and slammed into the floor at Naruto's feet. The impact cratered the ground. The floor, already weakened by the vice shout, buckled and gave way. The entire section of the laboratory dropped one more story, a grinding avalanche of concrete and steel and earth, and when the dust settled, Orochimaru was lying at the bottom of a crater with Naruto standing over him. The boy's face was still pink. Steam was still rising from his head vents. His antenna was still glowing. But the rage was fading. He was not calm. Naruto did not really do calm, but the white-hot fury of the cake betrayal was cooling into something more dangerous, annoyance. Naruto looked down at Orochimaru. Orochimaru looked up at Naruto. You lied about cake, Naruto said. Naruto doesn't like you. Orochimaru, broken and bloody in a crater of his own making, summoned the last reserves of his legendary intellect and said the only thing he could think of, I can get you real cake. Naruto considered this. Nah. He pointed his antenna at Orochimaru. Orochimaru's golden eyes went wide. For a fraction of a second, the greatest scientific mind in the shinobi world saw the pink light building at the tip of that fleshy antenna and understood, with perfect and final clarity, that there was no technique, no jutsu, no body transfer, no immortality research, no contingency plan in the entire scope of his decades of preparation that could save him from what was about to happen. Transfiguration beam. The beam hit Orochimaru in the face. The Sanin's body seized. His pale skin rippled. His golden eyes lost their light. His form compressed, reshaping, reforming, the cellular structure rewriting itself at a level so fundamental that it bypassed every regeneration technique, every backup body, every soul transfer seal he had prepared. You cannot transfer your soul out of a body that is no longer a body. You cannot regenerate cells that are no longer cells. You cannot be immortal when you are chocolate. Orochimaru became a large, ornate chocolate truffle. Dark chocolate exterior with a white chocolate swirl pattern that, if you look closely, resembled a snake. It was sitting in the center of the crater, perfectly formed, gently steaming. Naruto picked it up, sniffed it, made a face. Smells like snake. He ate it anyway. He was hungry. He was always hungry. He chewed, swallowed, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Blef! Needed more sugar. Above him, the remains of the sound village were still collapsing. Dust and rubble rained down. Somewhere in the wreckage, Kabuto, who had been smart enough to start running the moment the vice shout hit, was crawling through an emergency tunnel with a broken arm and a shattered worldview, fleeing into the darkness, carrying with him the last living memory of Orochimaru's final expression. Naruto flew out of the rubble. Literally flew. His body lifted off the ground. The pink magic matter that composed him simply deciding that gravity was a suggestion, and he rose through the cascading debris and the choking dust and into the open sky above the ruins of what had been the hidden sound village. He hovered in the air, looked down. The entire complex had collapsed into a crater. Buildings, tunnels, laboratories, barracks, all of it gone, reduced to a sinkhole of broken concrete and settling dust. Naruto surveyed the destruction with the detached curiosity of a child who had knocked over a sandcastle. Boring place, he said. Bad snacks. He flew away, heading east. He had heard there was a good ramen stand somewhere in the land of hot water. His antenna bobbed in the wind. He hummed his tuneless song. Behind him, the last remnants of the sound village settled into silence. A snake, a small white snake, one of Orochimaru's surveillance summons, emerged from a crack in the rubble. It looked around at the devastation. It tasted the air with its tongue. It detected the faint, fast, lingering scent of chocolate and sugar, and something vast and pink and beyond its comprehension. The snake retreated underground and was never seen again. The destruction of the sound village was not something that could be hidden. A crater the size of a small town does not go unnoticed. Satellite villages reported the tremors. Merchant caravans saw the dust cloud from 50 miles away. Intelligence networks that had been tracking Orochimaru's operations for years suddenly found nothing where something used to be. The reports came in within days. Orochimaru gone. His elite guard gone. His entire underground infrastructure gone. No bodies, no survivors, no evidence of conventional attack, no scorch marks, no explosive residue, no chakra signatures consistent with any known jutsu or weapon system. Just a hole in the ground and the faint smell of chocolate. The Five Kage Summit was convened. It was not a scheduled meeting. The Five Kage Summit was supposed to occur once every 10 years or during wartime, and the last one had been a decade ago. But the Hokage's office sent out emergency summons, and for once, every single Kage responded immediately. Because every single Kage had been reading the same reports, and every single Kage had arrived at the same conclusion, independently and with varying degrees of composure. The pink demon was real. The pink demon was escalating, and nobody had the faintest idea what to do about it. The summit was held in the land of iron, the traditional neutral ground. The five Kage sat around a curved table in a chamber carved from mountain stone. Their bodyguards stood behind them, Mifune, the samurai general of the Land of Iron, presided. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, sat at his seat and looked old. He looked every one of his years. He had known this day was coming since a 6-year-old boy turned a chunin into chocolate 8 years ago, and he had spent every day since then hoping it would not come. Gaara's father, the fourth Kazekage, Rasa, sat rigid and controlled, his gold dust swirling faintly around his shoulders, a nervous tic he usually suppressed. The third Tsuchikage, Onoki, floated slightly above his chair because his back hurt and he was too old and too proud to admit it. He looked irritated, which was his default state, but underneath the irritation was something colder. The fourth Mizukage, Yagura, or rather the entity controlling Yagura, sat motionless, three-tailed jinchuriki, his calm exterior masking the alien intelligence of Obito's Genjutsu. Even the man behind the mask had read the reports and felt something shift in his calculations. And the fourth Raikage, the fourth Raikage, 6'5", 270 pounds of muscle and fury wrapped in lightning release and held together by pure, concentrated aggression. He had the body of a demigod and the temper of a thunderstorm. He had killed more enemy shinobi with his bare fists than most villages had produced in a generation. He was the fastest man alive. He was the strongest man alive. He was absolutely, unshakably certain of both of these facts. He had read the reports. He had not believed them. "So," said, his deep voice cutting through the murmur of the chamber like a hammer through glass. A child has destroyed the Sound Village, killed Orochimaru, eaten 2 Akatsuki members, and you're all sitting here looking like you've seen a ghost. This is not a conventional threat," Hiruzen said quietly. "Naruto Uzumaki is a jinchuriki," interrupted. "A container for the Nine Tails. We have jinchuriki too. My brother B is a perfect jinchuriki. A child with a biju is dangerous, yes, but not unstoppable. He is not using the Nine Tails," Itachi's report, distributed anonymously and attributed to a reliable source, stated clearly. Hiruzen had brought copies. The Kyuubi's chakra has not been detected in any encounter. What Naruto Uzumaki is using is something else entirely, something that predates chakra. Predates chakra, I snorted. That's impossible. 3 months ago, he turned a 60-foot sea monster into sushi by pointing at it, Onoki said dryly. I think we are beyond the realm of possible and impossible, Raikage. The boy's body does not register as organic matter, Hiruzen continued. He is composed of an unknown substance that is infinitely elastic, self-regenerating, and apparently indestructible. He can transmute any form of matter, living or inorganic, into food using a beam of energy projected from an appendage on his head. He can manipulate his body's shape, density, and mass at will. He can fly. He has demonstrated a sonic attack capable of collapsing fortified underground structures. Amaterasu, the Uchiha clan's most powerful technique, eternal black flames, was neutralized by the boy simply shedding his own skin. The table was quiet. I will handle this, he said. He stood up. His chair scraped back. Lightning crackled across his shoulders, involuntary, the physical manifestation of a man whose response to every problem was overwhelming force. I'll take B. We'll put the boy down. Raikage, Hiruzen began. I am the fastest shinobi alive. B is the most powerful jinchuriki alive. Together, we have never been defeated. We will intercept the target, contain him with B's tail beast power, and I will finish him with my lariat. He ate Kisame in one bite, Onoki said, and Kisame was called the tailless-tailed beast. Kisame was not me. A's fist cracked against the table, splitting the stone slab down the middle. I am the Raikage. I do not lose. Hiruzen looked at A. He had 1,000 things he wanted to say. He had 8 years of reports and observations, and the bone-deep certainty of a man who had watched Naruto Uzumaki grow from a child into something that defied the word shinobi. He wanted to say, you do not understand. He wanted to say, this is not a fight. He wanted to say, the boy turned the Kaguya clan's greatest warrior into a cupcake without looking at him. But he had learned, over 71 years, that some men could only learn by touching the fire. Be careful, Hiruzen said. I did not hear him. He was already walking out. The interception point was a rocky wasteland between the borders of the Land of Lightning and the Land of Hot Water. A desolate stretch of flat, broken stone and scattered boulders under a sky the color of old steel. No villages for 30 miles, no civilians. The Raikage had chosen it specifically. Open terrain, no collateral damage, maximum room to maneuver. Killer Bee was there. A's younger brother. 8 Tails Jinchuriki. Perfect host. He stood with his arms crossed, his 7 swords strapped to various points on his body, his sunglasses reflecting the gray sky. He was rapping under his breath, as he always was, composing verses that only he appreciated. Yo, bro, I did the research like you said. This kid's got powers that should fill us both with dread. Shut up, B. Eating folks like snacks, that's a certified fact, but the 8 Tails and the Raikage gonna counterattack. I said shut up. B shrugged and went back to his internal concert. They waited. Naruto arrived 20 minutes later. He came from the south, walking at a leisurely pace, his pink GI fluttering in the wind, his antenna swaying. He was in a good mood. He had heard from a terrified merchant who would have told him literally anything to make him go away, that there was a famous ramen stand in the next town. He was humming. He was happy. His black and pink eyes were bright with the simple, uncomplicated joy of a creature that wanted ramen and expected to get it. He saw the 2 figures standing in the wasteland. He stopped, tilted his head. More people, Naruto said. Naruto is busy, going to get ramen. You're not going anywhere, I said. Lightning chakra mode activated. His body lit up like a reactor. Blue-white electricity arced across every muscle, every joint, every inch of his massive frame. The air around him ionized. The ground beneath his feet cracked from the sheer electromagnetic pressure. He was not just fast in this form. He was speed itself, faster than the Sharingan could track, faster than nerve impulses could carry warning, faster than thought. You're the pink demon, I said. I'm the Raikage, and this ends now. Naruto looked at the lightning crackling around A's body. He poked his own antenna thoughtfully. Lightning Man is bright, Naruto observed. Too bright. Hurts Naruto's eyes. Lariat, a moved. The word moved does not capture it. A displaced himself. One frame he was standing 30 meters away. The next frame he was not. There was no transition, no blur of motion. The human eye simply could not process the speed. He crossed 30 meters in the time it took light to travel a fraction of a second. His right arm extended. Lightning chakra mode at absolute maximum output. The lariat, the same technique that had decapitated a Bijou in the Third War, aimed directly at Naruto's midsection. The arm hit. It did not just hit, it punched through. The Raikage's entire forearm, crackling with enough lightning chakra to power a city, drove through Naruto's stomach and out the other side. A's fist emerged from Naruto's back trailing sparks and viscera, except the viscera was pink, not red, and it was not behaving the way viscera should. I stood there. His arm was through the boy. He was panting from the exertion. Lightning still crackled around him. He had done it. He had put his arm through the target's torso. A killing blow. An absolute, undeniable killing blow. Naruto looked down at the arm going through his body. He was not dead. He was not in pain. He was not even particularly concerned. His expression was the expression of someone who has just noticed a stain on their favorite shirt. That tickles. I tried to pull his arm back. It did not come back. The flesh around the hole, the pink, rubbery living matter of Naruto's body, contracted. It sealed around A's forearm like quicksand closing. It hardened. Not to stone, to something denser. Something that did not yield, did not flex, did not acknowledge the 20 tons of pulling force that the Raikage was now applying to his own trapped arm. Pulled. He braced his feet. He fired his lightning chakra mode to maximum. The ground beneath him shattered from the force. His muscles bulged until the veins stood out like cables. His teeth clenched hard enough to crack enamel. His arm did not move. Not 1 millimeter. Naruto tilted his head. That smile. That wide, too wide stretching smile. My turn. Angry explosion. The pink hit like a wall. It erupted from every cell of Naruto's body simultaneously. Not chakra, not elemental release, not anything the shinobi world had a name for. It was pink. It was hot. It was absolute. A sphere of energy expanding outward from Naruto's body at the speed of light, and at the center of the sphere was the Raikage, his arm still trapped, unable to move, unable to flee, unable to do anything but watch the pink wave engulf him. The explosion was not large in the way that explosions are usually large. There was no fireball, no mushroom cloud, no roaring shockwave of displaced air. The angry explosion was precise, surgical, a sphere of annihilation exactly 3 miles in diameter, expanding and collapsing in the span of a single second. Everything inside the sphere ceased to exist. The ground was not broken. It was vitrified, fused into glass. Smooth, clear, perfectly flat glass that reflected the gray sky like a mirror. The boulders were gone. The rocks were gone. The dust was gone. 3 miles of rocky wasteland had been converted into a perfect glass crater, as if the earth had been melted and polished by a god with very particular aesthetic preferences. At the center of the crater stood Naruto. He was clean, unscathed. His pink eye was intact. His antenna was bobbing cheerfully. He was humming. He pulled his hands behind his head and looked around at the 3-mile circle of glass that used to be a landscape. "Ooh," he said. "Pretty." The Raikage was gone. His lightning chakra, his muscles, his speed, his pride, his certainty that he was the strongest man alive. All of it, gone. Vaporized. Erased so thoroughly that there was not even ash. There was not even a memory of ash. The 4th Raikage, one of the most powerful shinobi in the world, had been deleted from existence by a 14-year-old boy throwing a tantrum, and the boy did not even remember doing it 3 seconds later. 1 mile away, at the very edge of the blast radius, Killer B was on his knees. He had been far enough from the epicenter, far enough that the angry explosion had weakened to merely devastating by the time it reached him. His skin was burned, his sunglasses were melted, his swords were gone, but he was alive. The 8 tails had shielded him at the last second, wrapping him in a cocoon of chakra that had barely held. Looked at the glass crater. He looked at the spot where his brother had been standing. He was not rapping. For the first time in his life, Killer B had no words. Inside him, the 8 tails. Juki, the ancient, wise, cautious Biju who had seen civilizations rise and fall, was screaming at him to run. Not fighting screaming. Not strategic screaming. Primal, animal, every instinct firing at once screaming. The kind of screaming that prey does when the predator is close and the escape window is closing. B did not run. B was many things. A clown, a rapper, a brother, a jinchuriki. But he was not a coward. His brother was dead. His brother was dead, and the thing that killed him was standing in a glass crater humming, and B could feel the rage building behind his ribs like a bomb with a lit fuse. He bit his thumb, slammed his palm to the ground. Full transformation. No half measures. No partial cloaks. Full-tailed beast mode. The transformation was instantaneous. B's body expanded, grew, shifted. Human flesh became Biju matter. 8 massive tentacles erupted from his back. His body swelled to the size of a building, then a city block, then a mountain. Juki, the full, colossal form of the 8 tails, towered over the glass crater, all 8 tentacles writhing, his mouth open, his single eye blazing with the combined fury of a Biju and a man who had just watched his brother die. The tailed beast bomb formed between his horns. It was not small. It was not restrained. It was everything Juki had, every ounce of Biju chakra, every fragment of rage and grief and power, compressed into a sphere of pure destruction the size of a small building. The air around it bent. The glass beneath it cracked. The sky above it darkened. Naruto looked up. "Oh, big octopus!" "This is for my brother." The voice was B's and amplified through Juki's massive form, shaking the air itself. The tailed beast bomb fired. The beam hit Naruto dead center. The impact was beyond description. The glass crater, the 3-mile circle of vitrified earth, shattered. Then the earth underneath shattered. Then the air itself seemed to shatter. A column of Biju chakra the width of a stadium drove into the ground where Naruto stood and kept going, boring through rock and stone and the very crust of the earth. The mushroom cloud that rose from the impact was visible from 3 countries. The shockwave flattened everything within 10 miles that hadn't already been flattened. Juki roared. It was a roar of triumph, of vengeance, of a Biju and a jinchuriki united in grief and fury, pouring everything they had into a single devastating strike that would end the threat, avenge the fallen, and prove that even monsters had limits. The smoke rose, thick and black and choking. The crater within the crater within the crater smoldered. Then the smoke cleared. Naruto was standing at the exact center of the impact. He was chewing something. His cheeks were puffed out. His jaw was working. He had a thoughtful expression on his face, the expression of a food critic evaluating a new dish. As the dust settled and the world came back into focus, the details resolved. His clothes were gone, but his body was unmarked. Perfect pink flesh, smooth and new, without a scratch. He blew a bubble. A massive purple Biju chakra-infused bubble emerged from his mouth and expanded to the size of a car. It hovered there, glistening, before popping with a sound like a thunderclap. Naruto had absorbed the tailed beast bomb, eaten it, chewed it like bubblegum, and blown a bubble with it. He looked up at the 8 tails, 8 stories of ancient, furious, grieving Biju, tentacles writhing, chakra flaring, a god among beasts staring down at a 14-year-old boy in a crater. Naruto licked his lips. Slowly. "Big octopus," he said. His antenna began to glow, brighter than it had ever glowed. The tip was not just pink, it was white-hot pink, the color of a star's core, radiating energy that made the air itself warp and shimmer. "Naruto, make takoyaki. Transfiguration beam, maximum output." The beam that erupted from Naruto's antenna was not a bolt, not a beam. It was a wall, a solid, screaming, overwhelming tsunami of pink energy the width of a highway, blazing with power that made the tailed beast bomb look like a firecracker. It crossed the distance between Naruto and Juki in the time it took to blink and hit the 8-tailed square in the chest. Juki froze, every tentacle locked, every muscle seized. The massive, ancient, powerful Biju, a creature of living chakra that had existed since the Sage of 6 Paths divided the 10 tails, went rigid, and then began to shrink. The transformation was visible from miles away. The 8 tails, all 8 stories, all 8 tentacles, all that mass and power and fury was compressing, contracting, reshaping. The tentacles pulled inward, the body condensed. The colors shifted from purple-gray to golden brown. The texture changed from living chakra to something crispy, something battered, something fried. Juki, the 8 tails, one of the 9 most powerful beings in existence, a creature born from the body of the primordial 10 tails itself, became takoyaki, a colossal platter of golden brown fried octopus balls, each one the size of a building, arranged in a perfect circle on a platter made of crystallized chakra, sitting in the center of the devastated, vitrified, crater-pocked wasteland. They steamed gently. They smelled incredible. Naruto floated down. His bare feet touched the glass ground without a sound. He walked up to the nearest takoyaki ball, 5 meters in diameter, perfectly round, the batter crisp and golden, the interior soft and dark with the transmuted flesh of an ancient Biju. He picked one up, both arms. It was heavy, but he lifted it like a pillow. He took a bite. The crunch was audible from a quarter-mile away, crispy batter giving way to soft, savory filling. Naruto chewed, his black and pink eyes half closed in pleasure. He swallowed. He tilted his head, was need more sauce. He reached into thin air. His hand disappeared, not behind something, not into a pocket, but into the fabric of space itself, the way Majin Buu had always been able to produce things from nothing, reality bending around his will like soft clay. His hand came back holding a bottle of takoyaki sauce. Standard. Brown. The kind you could buy at any grocery store. He poured it over the takoyaki ball. The sauce drizzled across the golden brown surface in elegant swirls. He took another bite, chewed, nodded. Better. He sat down, cross-legged, on the glass floor of a wasteland that had been, 20 minutes ago, a rocky expanse between 2 countries. Before him, a platter of building-sized takoyaki that had been, 20 minutes ago, one of the 9-tailed beasts. Behind him, a 3-mile circle of vitrified earth where, 20 minutes ago, the 4th Raikage had been alive. Naruto ate. He ate slowly, for him, which meant he finished the first ball in about 5 minutes and reached for the second. The sauce bottle floated beside him, dispensing on command. The sky was still dark from the aftermath of the tailed beast bomb. Ash drifted on the wind. Somewhere very far away, a seismograph in a university in the land of Earth was recording tremors that its operators could not explain. Naruto did not know about seismographs. He did not know about the 5 Cog Summit, or the Akatsuki's Do Not Engage list, or the intelligence reports that were, at this very moment, being frantically updated across 5 nations. He did not know that the destruction he had just caused would be classified as a natural disaster by 3 different governments, because the alternative, admitting that a child had done this, was too destabilizing to acknowledge. He did not know or care that the shinobi world was afraid of him. That the word Buu would begin appearing in whispered conversations and classified briefings and the nightmares of intelligence analysts who had read one too many reports. That mothers in border towns were already using his name to scare children into eating their vegetables. Finish your plate or the pink demon will come. And that the children were not laughing because they had seen the craters. He did not know that in Konoha, Hiruzen Sarutobi was sitting in his office with the curtains drawn, staring at a messenger hawk's report and crying. Not for the Raikage, not for Killer Bee, for Naruto, for the boy he had failed to protect, the boy who had become something that did not need protection, the boy who sat alone in a wasteland eating his enemies and humming to himself because he had never been taught how to be human and the world had never given him a reason to try. Naruto knew none of this. He picked up the third takoyaki ball, poured sauce on it, bit into it, chewed. The wind blew across the glass crater. It made a sound like singing, a high, thin note, the air vibrating across the perfect, polished surface. Ash fell like gray snow. The sky was purple and orange at the edges where the sunset was breaking through the dust clouds. It was quiet. Naruto ate, alone in the ruins of a landscape the shinobi world would call a disaster zone for a generation, surrounded by the glass and ash and silence of his own making. A boy made of something older than chakra, something stranger than jutsu, something that the world had no name for and no defense against. A boy who wanted ramen and got a war. A boy who wanted a dango stick and got an apocalypse. He finished the third ball, reached for the fourth. The sauce bottle hovered attentively. He was happy. That was the worst part. The part that would haunt the shinobi world for years. Not the destruction, not the transmutation, not the casual, absolute, thoughtless way he had erased two of the strongest beings on the planet. The worst part was that he was happy. Genuinely, purely, completely happy. Sitting in the wreckage of everything, eating, humming, swinging his feet. Because Naruto Uzumaki did not see a disaster zone. He did not see the end of an era. He did not see the death of legends or the birth of nightmares, or the moment the shinobi world realized it was living in a cage with something that could not be fought. He saw lunch, and lunch was delicious. He took another bite. The crunch echoed across the glass. The sunset painted the crater in shades of gold and pink. The ash fell soft and slow. Somewhere far away the world was screaming. Naruto hummed, chewed, swallowed, smiled. Naruto wants seconds. He reached for the fifth takoyaki ball, then the sixth, then the seventh. Each one was the size of a small shed, golden brown and steaming, and each one disappeared into that impossible mouth in 3 bites. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The sound carrying across the glass wasteland like distant artillery. He ate methodically now, not frantically. The rage was gone, the Raikage was gone, the 8 tails was gone. There was nothing left to be angry about and everything left to eat. The 8th and final ball. Naruto lifted it, inspected it, turned it this way and that. A tiny fragment of crystallized chakra clung to the batter, purple, flickering, the last ghost of Juki's consciousness trying to exist inside a piece of fried food. Naruto licked it off. The flickering stopped. He set the empty platter down. It cracked against the glass floor and split in 2. He sat back, patted his stomach, burped. The burp released a small cloud of pink vapor that drifted upward and dissolved in the ash-heavy air. Good takoyaki, Naruto said to nobody. He nodded to himself, confirming his own assessment, then frowned. But now Naruto wants ramen. He held out his right hand, palm up. The air above it shimmered, rippled. Something was being built, not summoned, not conjured from a scroll or a seal, but constructed from nothing. Reality folding itself into the shape of what Naruto wanted because Naruto wanted it. A ceramic bowl materialized first, white with a blue spiral pattern. Then broth, rich amber, steaming, filling the bowl from the bottom up as if poured by an invisible hand. Noodles wove themselves into existence, curling through the broth in perfect spirals. Sliced pork appeared, a soft-boiled egg, halved, the yolk like liquid gold, chopped scallions, a sheet of nori. Naruto's hand did not move throughout the process. The bowl simply was, and then it was full, and then it was in his hands, and then chopsticks appeared between his fingers. Wooden, disposable, already split. Magic materialization, the ability to create anything from nothing. He had been doing it for years now. pulling food and objects from the raw fabric of existence the way a normal person might pull a coin from their pocket. It was not jutsu. It was not chakra manipulation. It was will made physical, desire given form, and the universe bending, because arguing with Naruto was something even the laws of physics had apparently given up on. He slurped. The ramen was good. Not as good as Ichiraku's, never as good as Ichiraku's, but good. He finished it in 45 seconds, set the bowl down on the glass, and stood. He looked east. Something about east felt right. East had food. East had towns. East had people who might cook for him, and if they did not cook for him, he would find someone who would, and if nobody would, he would make his own food, and life would continue as it had always continued for Naruto Uzumaki. One meal at a time, one step at a time, one day at a time, forever. He floated off the ground. His body lifted, the pink matter that composed him simply ignoring gravity the way it ignored everything else that tried to impose rules on it. He rose 10 feet, 20, 50, until the glass crater spread out beneath him like a frozen lake, the sunset painting it in shades of amber and rose. The devastation was beautiful from up here. He did not think it was devastation. He thought it was shiny. He flew northeast. His antenna bobbed in the wind. He hummed. Below him, the shattered wasteland gave way to forest, then hills, then the rolling farmland of the Land of Fire's outer territories. Smoke rose from distant chimneys. Rivers glinted silver in the fading light. The world was big and full of food, and Naruto was free. Behind him, the glass crater cooled and settled and became the most photographed geological anomaly in the shinobi world for the next 50 years. Scientists would study it. Geologists would publish papers. Nobody would believe the real explanation. Nobody wanted to. The intelligence report arrived simultaneously in 5 offices across 5 nations. This was not a coincidence. It was the work of a network of messenger hawks, coded transmissions, and desperate intelligence operatives who had collectively decided that the speed of information was now a survival issue. The report was 17 pages long. It was classified at a level that did not technically exist before that morning. The classification was invented specifically for this report. The classification was called Extinction Class. The first line read, at approximately 1400 hours, the 4th Raikage and Killer Bee, Jinchuriki of the 8 Tails, engaged the target designated Pink Demon in the border wasteland between the Land of Lightning and the Land of Hot Water. Both combatants are confirmed dead. The 8 Tails Biju has been consumed. There was a lot more after that first line. Technical details. Sensor readings from monitoring stations 60 miles away that had picked up energy signatures. Their equipment was not designed to measure. Satellite imagery. Yes, the shinobi world had rudimentary satellite imaging, courtesy of sensor arrays on high-altitude summons, showing the before and after of the engagement zone. Before, rocky wasteland. After, perfect circle of glass 3 miles in diameter. The last line read, current target location unknown. Heading northeast. Speed variable. Threat assessment. Beyond classification. In Kirigakure, the 5th Mizukage, Mei Terumi, who had taken the seat after the liberation of the village from Yagura's control, read the report in her office overlooking the harbor. The mist was rolling in, as it always did, soft and white and familiar. She read every page. She did not skip ahead. She did not skim. She read the sensor data, the casualty confirmation, the energy analysis that her own technical staff had appended with a note that said, in effect, we do not understand these readings, and we are not sure our instruments are functioning correctly. She finished the last page. She set it down. She reached into the bottom drawer of her desk and pulled out a bottle of sake, the good sake, the bottle she had been saving for the day she successfully reformed the 7 swordsmen, or the day she got married, whichever came first. She poured a cup. She drank it. She poured another. She drank that one too. She sat in silence for 11 minutes. Her aide, standing by the door, did not interrupt. The aide had read the report's summary page. The aide was also considering drinking. May said nothing for a long time. Then she said quietly to the mist outside her window, close the borders, all of them, every port, every bridge, every crossing. Nobody in or out without my personal authorization. Mizukage-sama, the economic impact alone. I don't care about the economy. I care about not being eaten. The aide closed his mouth and left to carry out the order. May poured a third cup. She did not drink it. She just held it and watched the mist and thought about a boy who could turn gods into snack food. And the cup trembled in her hand, not from the sake, but from the understanding that her entire village, her entire military, her entire legacy was made of the same kind of matter that the boy turned into candy. They were all just ingredients to him. Every shinobi alive. Ingredients that hadn't been cooked yet. In Iwagakure, the third Tsuchikage read the report while floating 3 inches above his chair. His back hurt. It always hurt. He was ancient and irritable and had survived more wars than most nations had fought. And he read the report with the squinting, lip-curling skepticism of a man who had been lied to by intelligence reports before and was not about to start believing them now. "This is fabricated," he said. His aide said nothing. A 14-year-old boy does not destroy a tailed beast. A 14-year-old boy does not vaporize the Raikage. These readings are clearly equipment malfunction. Tsuchikage-sama, the readings were confirmed by 3 independent sensor arrays. Then 3 independent sensor arrays are broken. The glass crater has been visually confirmed by our reconnaissance team. It is 3 miles in diameter and perfectly circular. Onoki's floating wobbled, just slightly. The old man's jaw worked. His eyes, sharp and small and set deep in a face like crumpled paper, moved across the report one more time. "Send a second reconnaissance team," he said. "Full technical survey. I want soil samples, energy residue analysis, and a topographical map of the impact zone." "Yes, Tsuchikage-sama. And double the garrison on the western border." Against the pink demon? Against everything. The aide left. Onoki sat alone in his office and floated and did not read the report again because he had memorized every word, and every word made the world smaller and more fragile and more temporary than he had ever allowed himself to believe. He did not request a second report. He already knew the first one was accurate. He had known from the moment he read the energy analysis that described a power source inconsistent with any known chakra classification, including Biju class. Onoki was old enough to remember stories from his grandfather, who had been old enough to remember stories from his grandfather, who had spoken of things that existed before chakra, before the sage, before the world was the world. Things that were pink and endless and hungry. Onoki had always thought those were fairy tales. He was reconsidering. In Sunagakure, the 5th Kazekage read the report. Gaara was young, 16 years old, the youngest Kage in history. He had been a jinchuriki himself, the one-tail, Shukaku, sealed inside him at birth, extracted by the akatsuki not long ago, and resealed through methods that were classified even from his own council. He understood what it meant to be a container. He understood what it meant to be feared. He understood in a way that the other Kage could not, what it felt like to be a child that a village wanted dead. He read the report in his office. Sand swirled around his hands. Not consciously. The sand moved when Gaara was agitated. A leftover reflex from years of Shukaku's influence. And right now the sand was not just swirling, it was grinding. Fine grains rubbing against each other with a sound like distant static, filling the office with a low, persistent hiss that his guards had learned to associate with the Kazekage processing something terrible. He read the casualty confirmation. The Raikage. Dead. The man who had tried to kill Gaara's father at a summit. The man who could move faster than lightning. Erased. Not defeated. Erased. He read the Biju status report. Juki, the 8 tails, consumed, not extracted. The Akatsuki extracted Biju, pulled them out of their hosts, and sealed them in a statue. That was clinical. That was methodical. This was different. The 8 tails had been turned into fried octopus and eaten by a child. Gaara set the report down. The sand stopped moving. The silence in the office was total. He ate Gyuki? Gaara said. Tamari and Kankuro, standing behind him, said nothing. There was nothing to say. Their brother, the boy who had once been the most feared weapon in Suna, had just read about something that made his own monstrous past look like a playground scuffle. He ate a tailed beast, Gaara said again, as if saying it twice would make it more comprehensible. It did not. It made it worse. The sand began to swirl again. Gaara stared at the wall. He was thinking about a boy he had never met, a boy who had been a jinchuriki too, a boy who had been hated by his village, starved, beaten, rejected. Gaara knew that story. Gaara had lived that story. The difference was that Gaara had been saved by Naruto, ironically, in another timeline, in another version of events where the blonde boy was human and brave and full of a fire that was warm instead of devastating. In this version, nobody had saved the blonde boy. Nobody had reached him. Nobody had shown him that the world was more than hunger and cruelty and the taste of people who had tried to hurt him. Gaara set his hand flat on the report. The paper crinkled under his palm. "Increase the desert patrols," he said quietly. "If he comes near our borders, do not engage. Offer food. Retreat. Kazekage-sama, the council will want a stronger." The council can read the report. If they still want a stronger response after reading what happened to the Raikage, they are welcome to go meet him themselves. Nobody volunteered. In Konoha, Hiruzen Sarutobi did not need to read the report. He had been reading the reports for 8 years. He had a shelf in his office dedicated entirely to files on Naruto Uzumaki, intelligence briefs, incident reports, sensor analyses, Anbu observations, threat assessments that had been revised upwards so many times that the classification stamps ran off the edge of the paper. He read it anyway. He owed Naruto that much. He owed the boy the dignity of a full and careful accounting of every person he had killed, every landscape he had reshaped, every law of nature he had broken. Because if Hiruzen could not protect Naruto from the world, he could at least bear witness to what the world had turned him into. He finished the report. He folded it. He placed it in the shelf with all the others. He put his head in his hands. The pipe sat on his desk, unlit. It had been unlit for days. He had forgotten to smoke. He had forgotten most of the small rituals that had structured his days for decades. The morning tea, the afternoon walk, the evening review of mission reports that used to feel important and now felt like rearranging furniture on a sinking ship. Minato's portrait watched from the wall. That calm smile, those blue eyes. Hiruzen did not speak to the portrait tonight. There was nothing left to say. He had asked Minato's ghost 1,000 times what they had sealed inside his son, and the ghost had never answered. And Hiruzen had come to understand that the answer would not have helped anyway. What they had sealed inside Naruto was secondary. What the world had done to the outside of him, the starvation, the beatings, the kunai through the chest of a 6-year-old boy, that was the part that mattered. That was the part that had woken something up. You do not create monsters by sealing demons inside children. You create monsters by throwing kunai at them and refusing to sell them dango. Hiruzen sat in the dark and felt the weight of that truth and did not cry. He had cried already. He had cried when the first reports came in about the Raikage. He had cried for A and for Killer B, and for every stupid, brave, doomed person who had tried to fight Naruto and learned the lesson that the entire shinobi world was now being forced to learn. There is no fighting this. There is no strategy. There is no jutsu in any scroll, no technique in any arsenal, no combination of forces in any army that can stop a boy who is made of something that does not care about armies. There is only feeding him and hoping he stays happy. Hiruzen's hands trembled. He clasped them together to make them stop. They did not stop. Outside his window, Konoha was quiet. The village did not know the details yet. The public announcement, if there ever was one, would be carefully worded. An incident in the Northern Territories. Ongoing assessment. No immediate threat to the village. Bureaucratic language designed to prevent panic. But the shinobi knew. The jonin knew. The anbu knew. The information moved through the ranks the way fear always moves, not through official channels, but through glances, through silences, through the way a senior operative's hand shakes when they pour their tea. By morning, every active duty shinobi in Konoha would know that the pink demon had killed the Raikage and eaten a tailed beast, and the official response from their Hokage was, offer food. Back away slowly. The world was changing, not with a bang, not with a war, not with the dramatic clash of armies and ideologies that the shinobi nations had spent generations preparing for. The world was changing the way a riverbed changes, slowly, silently, carved by a force that does not know it is carving, that does not intend to reshape, that simply moves, and the landscape rearranges itself around it, because the alternative is being washed away. In a border town between the land of fire and the land of hot water, a merchant named Goro sat in a tea house and listened to a traveler describe what he had seen from 40 miles away. A flash of light, a column of dust, tremors that shook cups off shelves. The traveler's hands were shaking. He was drinking sake at 10 in the morning. "They're saying it was the pink demon," the traveler whispered. "They're saying he killed the Raikage." "The Raikage," Goro repeated. He did not believe it. The Raikage was the Raikage, the fastest, the strongest, the man who could not be killed. Everybody knew that. That's not possible. "I saw the crater, friend, 3 miles wide. Glass, perfect glass. Nothing in it, nothing left." Goro paid for his tea and left the tea house and walked home and locked his door and did not come out for 2 days. When he finally did, he went to the market and bought the most expensive box of dango he could find. And he put it on his windowsill with a sign that said, "Free for anyone." He did not say who the anyone was for. He did not need to. 17 other houses on the same street had dango on their windowsills by the end of the week. At a checkpoint on the border of the Land of Fire, a chunin named Hayashi received new orders from the Intelligence Division. He read them twice. The standard traveler risk designations had been updated. The old system was simple: green for civilian, yellow for armed traveler, orange for suspected missing nin, red for confirmed hostile, black for akatsuki. Every shinobi knew the system. It had been in place for 20 years. The new system had a 6th color, pink. Hayashi read the description attached to the new designation. It was one line: immediate evacuation. No engagement under any circumstances. Report sighting and withdraw. This designation supersedes all other protocols, including village defense. He read it again. He looked at his partner, a young chunin fresh from the academy, who was reading the same notice with the expression of someone who had just been told that gravity was optional. "Is this real?" the young one asked. "It's real. Pink is higher than black, higher than akatsuki. Pink is higher than everything." The young chunin looked at the checkpoint gate, looked at the road beyond it, looked at the forest and the hills and the wide, indifferent world where a boy with a pink antenna was walking around, turning people into candy. "I want to transfer," the young chunin said. "To where?" "Anywhere that isn't on a road." The town was called Shizumi. It sat in a shallow valley near the border of the Land of Fire, fed by a clean river and surrounded by rice paddies and wild orchards. It was not on any strategic map. It had no military significance. It had one inn, 2 general stores, a blacksmith, a tailor, and a ramen stand. The ramen stand was what mattered. Naruto smelled it from 3 miles out. He was flying low, 50 feet above the tree line, just high enough to clear the canopy, just low enough to catch the scents rising from the valley. The afternoon was warm. The sky was blue. The forest was green and dense and full of the sounds of birds and insects and the distant rushing of water, and threading through all of it, rising on the thermal currents like a prayer, was the smell of miso broth and grilled pork and fresh noodles and sesame oil. Naruto's antenna stood straight up. "Ramen," he announced to nobody. His eyes went wide. His mouth split into a grin so large it occupied most of his face. He tucked his arms to his sides, angled downward, and dove toward the valley like a pink-tipped missile locked onto the most important target in the world. He hit the main road at a jog. Bare feet slapping packed earth. His pink jai, materialized fresh that morning after the old one had gotten dirty from sleeping in a field, fluttered behind him. His antenna bobbed. He was whistling. Not a real tune, just noise. Happy noise. The town of Shizumi was having a normal afternoon. Farmers were returning from the paddies. Children were playing in the street. A woman was hanging laundry on a line strung between 2 houses. The blacksmith's hammer rang in steady, rhythmic clangs. It was quiet. It was peaceful. It was about to stop being both of those things. The first person to see Naruto was a child. A girl, maybe 8 years old, sitting on a stone wall eating a rice ball. She saw the blonde boy jogging up the road. Strange clothes, strange skin that was pinkish in patches, and something growing from the top of his head that looked like a fat, curving tentacle. She stared. Naruto jogged past her. He did not notice her. He was following the smell. The girl dropped her rice ball. She ran inside her house. She did not scream. Children in border towns learned early that screaming attracted attention, and the things that warranted screaming were the things you did not want to attract the attention of. But the word spread anyway. A farmer on the main road saw the antenna and dropped his hoe. A shopkeeper looked out his window and went pale. The blacksmith's hammer stopped mid-swing. Within 90 seconds, the name was moving through the town like a fire through dry grass. Not the real name, which most of them did not know, but the other name. The name that travelers whispered. The name that merchants used to scare each other. The name that had replaced every monster and demon and ghost story that border towns had accumulated over centuries. The Pink Demon. The evacuation was not organized. It was not orderly. It was not the kind of calm, practiced withdrawal that shinobi villages drilled for. It was a civilian town full of people who had heard the stories and believed every single one, and it emptied like a bathtub with the plug pulled. Doors slammed, shutters banged shut, the streets cleared. A cart was abandoned mid-turn, the horse still attached, standing there with the bewildered patience of an animal that did not understand why its human had suddenly stopped existing. In 4 minutes, the main street of Shizumi was empty. Naruto walked through it. Hands in his pockets, or rather, hands in the vague suggestion of pockets that his materialized GI had, which were really just folds of pink cloth that his fingers sank into. He looked around. He had noticed, vaguely, that there were fewer people than expected. Towns usually had people. This one seemed to have doors. He said. Quiet town. He did not investigate. He did not care why the town was quiet. He cared about the ramen stand, which he could see now, a small wooden structure at the end of the main street, a cloth banner hanging from the front, 3 stools at the counter, a curl of steam rising from behind the partition. It was open. Naruto's grin returned. He bounced, literally bounced, his body compressing and launching, the last 50 feet and landed on the middle stool with a precision that would have impressed a gymnast. The stool groaned under him. Not from weight. Naruto weighed whatever he wanted to weigh at any given moment, but from surprise. Stools are not accustomed to customers arriving via ballistic trajectory. Behind the counter was an old man. He was standing there. He was still standing there. The entire town had evacuated around him, and he was still standing behind his counter with a ladle in one hand and a towel over his shoulder, and the expression of a man who had lived too long to be afraid of things that did not directly threaten his broth. He was not the original Tucci. He was not from Konoha. His name was Tochi too, by a coincidence that the universe had apparently arranged for its own amusement, and he had been making ramen for 47 years. He was 73 years old. He was 5'2". He was mostly bald, mostly wrinkled, and mostly unconcerned with the blond boy who had just landed on his stool with a pink antenna and black and pink eyes and a smile that showed too many teeth. His hands were shaking. That was the only sign. The ladle trembled. The knuckles around it were white. But he stood there. Naruto wants ramen, Naruto said. All of it. The old man looked at him, looked at the antenna, looked at the eyes, those wrong eyes, black voids with bubblegum centers, the eyes that 100 reports and 1,000 rumors had described and that no description had adequately captured. He looked for a long time. 3 seconds. 4. An eternity compressed into the space between a customer sitting down and a cook deciding to cook. What kind? The old man asked. Miso. Extra pork, extra noodles, extra everything. The old man nodded. He turned around. He faced his pots and his stove and the familiar, controllable, understandable world of broth and fire and noodles, and he began to cook. His hands shook. The ladle clattered against the edge of the pot as he stirred. He measured noodles and his fingers fumbled them, and he had to start again. He sliced pork and the knife jumped in his grip, and he nicked his thumb. A small cut, a bead of red blood welling on the skin, and he pressed it against his apron and kept going. Naruto watched. He watched with the absolute, unwavering focus of a child watching a magic trick. His elbows were on the counter. His chin was in his hands. His antenna leaned forward, the tip hovering over the counter as if it too was watching. His black and pink eyes tracked every movement, the swirl of broth, the toss of noodles, the sizzle of pork hitting the grill. He did not blink. He did not look away. He did not make a sound. It was the most attentive Naruto Uzumaki had ever been to anything that was not himself. The old man cooked. The shaking lessened. Not because the fear left. The fear was a living thing, a cold wire running through his chest, the bone-deep animal certainty that he was standing 3 feet from something that could unmake him with a thought. But because the cooking took over, 47 years of muscle memory. The ramen did not care who the customer was. The ramen demanded the same attention, the same care, the same respect, regardless of whether the person eating it was a farmer or a god or a pink eldritch horror sitting on a stool that was too small for him. He ladled the broth, thick, rich, amber. The steam rose in a column that caught the afternoon light and turned gold. He arranged the pork, 3 slices, overlapping, each one caramelized at the edges. He placed the egg, soft-boiled, halved, the yolk trembling, scallions, nori, a perfect spiral of Naruto fish cake, which was a coincidence or a joke or a cosmic inevitability, sitting in the center of the bowl like a signature. He set the bowl on the counter. Naruto looked at it. There was a moment, brief, almost invisible, where Naruto's expression changed. The manic grin softened. The black and pink eyes, usually full of chaotic energy and the restless hunger of something that was always looking for the next meal, went still. He was looking at the bowl the way a person looks at a painting, or a sunset, or the face of someone they have not seen in a long time. Then he grabbed the chopsticks. He ate. Not the way he usually ate. Shoving, inhaling, consuming with the frantic speed of a creature that did not trust the world to let it finish. He ate slowly. He slurped the noodles. He chewed the pork. He sipped the broth from the edge of the bowl, and his eyes closed, and the antenna on his head drooped to the side like a cat's ear. And for a single, improbable, beautiful moment, Naruto Uzumaki looked like a boy eating ramen. Just a boy. Nothing more. He set the bowl down. Empty. Clean. Not a drop of broth remaining. "Good," Naruto said. "Thank you," the old man said. His voice was steady now. The wire in his chest was still there, still cold, still vibrating, but the voice was steady. More. The old man cooked more. He cooked 6 more bowls. Naruto ate each one with the same slow, focused attention, and the old man cooked each one with the same careful hands, and the afternoon wore on, and the sun moved across the sky, and the town of Shizumi remained empty and silent around them, except for the sound of slurping and the clatter of bowls. After the 7th bowl, Naruto burped. He leaned back on the stool. He patted his stomach. He looked at the old man with the warmest expression his alien face could manage, which was something between a smile and a threat, which was as close to gratitude as his features could approximate. "What is old man's name?" the old man asked. The old man blinked. No customer had ever asked his name. Not once in 47 years. People ordered. People ate. People paid. They did not ask. "I'm Tucci," the old man said. Naruto went still. Something moved behind his eyes. A memory, maybe. A sense of something familiar. A name, a counter, a bowl of ramen, the only warm thing in a cold village. He could not place it. His mind did not work in memories the way a human mind did. It worked in feelings, in impressions, in the vague emotional residue of experiences that had happened to a body that kept rewriting itself. But something about that name caught in the machinery of his consciousness and held. "Old man Tucci makes good ramen," Naruto said. It was not a threat. It was not a demand. It was not the announcement of a transformation or the prelude to a destruction. It was a compliment. The purest, simplest, most sincere compliment that Naruto Uzumaki had ever given to a living human being. It came out of his mouth in that broken third-person child grammar way of his, and it landed on the old man's ears like a benediction. Tochi looked at the boy. The antenna, the eyes, the patches of pink skin visible on his arms where the human coloring had worn thin, the smile that was too wide, and the joy that was too real, and the loneliness that was so deep and so total that it had become invisible, the way water becomes invisible to fish. "Anytime," Tochi said. "Come back whenever you like." Naruto beamed. He reached into the air, magic materialization, casual, automatic, and pulled a double handful of candy from nothing. Hard candy, wrapped in colorful foil. He dumped them on the counter in a cascade of clicking, rattling sugar. "For old man Tucci," he announced. "You don't have to." Payment. Naruto pays. The candy sat on the counter in a bright, ridiculous pile. Tucci looked at it. Some of the wrappers had little pictures of animals on them. One had a cat, one had a fish. They were perfect, structurally, molecularly indistinguishable from the real thing because Naruto's power did not do imperfection. "Thank you," Tochi said. Naruto grinned. He hopped off the stool. He landed on the packed earth of the main street, stuck his hands behind his head, and strolled away with the relaxed, rolling gait of someone who had eaten well and was at peace with the universe. Tochi watched him go. He watched until the boy turned the corner at the end of the street, and then he watched the empty corner for another 30 seconds, and then his knees gave out. He sat down on the floor behind his counter, his back against the cabinet where he kept the bowls, and he shook. Full body tremors. His teeth chattered. His hands, steady during the cooking, steady through the serving, steady through the most dangerous restaurant transaction in the history of food service, were now shaking so violently that he could not have held a ladle if his life depended on it. He sat there for 17 minutes. A village patrol ninja, a chunin stationed in Shizumi as a border monitor, found him there. The chunin had evacuated with the town and returned when the threat appeared to have passed. He came around the counter and found the old man sitting on the floor, surrounded by spilled utensils and a pile of candy that should not have existed. "What happened?" the chunin asked. Tochi looked up. His eyes were red. His face was pale. He looked like a man who had just survived something that should not be survivable. "He paid," Tochi said. "What?" "He paid." The chunin looked at the candy, looked at the old man, looked at the 7 bowls stacked neatly on the counter, each one licked clean. "He paid." Tochi said a third time, and then he began to laugh. The thin, high, slightly unhinged laughter of a man who had served ramen to the end of the world and been tipped for it. The story of the ramen stand in Shizumi spread through the land of fire like wildfire through a drought. The details changed with each telling, as details always do. In some versions, Naruto demanded the ramen at spear point, threatening to destroy the town if the cook refused. In some versions, Naruto was 9 feet tall with 6 arms and eyes that burned holes in whatever they looked at. In the most fantastical version, which was actually the most accurate, the pink demon sat on a stool and ate 7 bowls of ramen and left a pile of candy and said thank you in his own weird way and walked off without hurting anyone. Nobody believed the accurate version. It was too strange. Not the eating. Everyone believed the eating, not the candy. Materialization was just another unexplainable power in an unexplainable list. What nobody believed was the without hurting anyone part. The pink demon was a destroyer. The pink demon ate people. The pink demon turned shinobi into sweets and landscapes into glass. The idea that he would sit quietly at a ramen stand and eat like a normal person and leave without incident, that was the part that broke people's models. But the story kept spreading, and as it spread, something shifted. Not much. Not enough to change anything, really, but enough to be noticed. In a border town 40 miles from Shizumi, a woman who ran a dango shop put a sign in her window, "All travelers welcome. No charge for first-time visitors." She did not say who the sign was for. She did not need to. In a fishing village on the coast of the land of rivers, a fisherman started leaving a plate of grilled fish on the edge of the dock every evening. "For the seagulls," he said. But the plate was always the best fish, always perfectly seasoned, always left on the side of the dock facing the road. In Konoha itself, old Ayame, who had run Ichiraku Ramen since her father retired, and who had served Naruto when he was a small, hungry, chattering boy who came to the counter because it was the only counter that would let him, started making an extra bowl every night. Miso. Extra pork. She covered it with a cloth and left it at the end of the counter, and she never said who it was for, and it was always cold in the morning, and she made another one the next night. This is what fear looked like when it had been mixed with something else, something that was not quite hope, and not quite pity, and not quite understanding, but lived in the same neighborhood as all three. The pink demon had paid for his ramen. The pink demon had said good. The pink demon was somewhere out there, walking, eating, humming, and the only people he had ever hurt were people who hurt him first. It was not much, but it was something. And in 100 kitchens across the shinobi world, people cooked a little more carefully that night, just in case. The field was in the land of grass, which was green and gentle and almost aggressively pastoral. Rolling hills covered in wildflowers, the kind of landscape that looked like it had been designed by someone who only knew happiness. Naruto was asleep in the middle of it, sprawled on his back, arms and legs spread in 4 directions like a starfish, his antenna curled over his face like a sleeping cat's tail. He was snoring, loudly. The sound was not quite human. It had a rubbery, resonant quality, as if his entire body was vibrating, which it was, because Naruto's body did whatever it wanted, whether he was conscious or not. Around him, in a rough circle, was a debris field of half-eaten sweets, materialized cookies with 1 bite taken, a cake missing its entire top layer, a pile of mochi wrappers. The mochi was materialized, but the wrappers were apparently important to the aesthetic, because Naruto's power was nothing if not thorough. A stick of dango, perfectly intact, balancing on his stomach and rising and falling with each breath. Konan landed 10 feet from the edge of the debris field. She did not land loudly. She did not announce herself. She descended from the sky on wings of paper, thousands of sheets folding and unfolding in perfect coordination, carrying her to the ground like an angel made of origami, and she touched the grass without a sound. She stood there. She looked at the sleeping boy. She had read every report. She had seen the photographs of the craters. She had been in the room when Itachi, the most composed human being she had ever known, had described the incident with the voice of a man who had looked into something that had looked back. She knew, intellectually, academically, with the dispassionate clarity of a trained intelligence operative, exactly what the boy in front of her was and what he could do. Standing 10 feet from him, watching him snore and drool on a pile of cookie crumbs, she felt the disconnect between knowledge and experience, like a physical sensation. He looked ridiculous. He looked like a teenager who had eaten too much at a festival and passed out in a park. He looked harmless. He was the single most dangerous entity in the recorded history of the shinobi world. Konan hated this assignment. She waited. She was patient. Konan was always patient. It was one of her defining qualities, the ability to stand perfectly still and wait for exactly the right moment, which was a skill she had developed during years of partnership with a god and a corpse. And she waited for the boy to wake up on his own, because the reports were very specific about what happened when you startled him. And Konan had no desire to become a pastry. 14 minutes passed. A butterfly landed on Naruto's nose. His face twitched. The antenna uncurled from his forehead and batted at the butterfly. Not violently, gently, the way a cat bats at a toy. The butterfly retreated. The antenna swayed. Naruto's eyes opened. They were immediately, horribly wrong. Even prepared for it. Even having read the descriptions, seen the secondhand illustrations, been briefed by Itachi himself, seeing those eyes in person was different. Black sclera, pink irises, pupils that were not quite round, not quite anything, just holes in a color that should not exist in organic tissue. They looked at Konan with the unfocused blankness of something waking up, and then they focused, and the focus was worse. "Paper lady," Naruto said. He was right. He had never seen her before. He had no intelligence briefings, no dossiers, no background research. He saw a woman made of paper and said "paper lady," and that was that. His categorization system was immediate, physical, and entirely based on what things looked or smelled or tasted like. Konan decided not to think about which category she was being sorted into. "Naruto Uzumaki," she said. Her voice was level, controlled, the voice she used for diplomatic contacts and assassination targets, and people she needed to not be afraid of even when she was very afraid. Nagato, the leader of the Akatsuki, extends an invitation. Naruto sat up. The dango stick fell off his stomach and landed in the grass. He blinked at her. His head tilted. The universal Naruto gesture of processing, his brain working through new information with the deliberate and ass-grinding slowness of a machine not designed for this task. The creepy eye people? Konan's left eyelid twitched. It was a microscopic movement. Nobody would have noticed. She noticed. "The Akatsuki," she corrected. "Yeah, creepy eye people. The ones with the coats." Yes, Naruto considered this. He scratched his antenna. He looked at Konan. He looked at the sky. He looked at a cloud that was shaped like a dumpling, which made him hungry, which was his default state. Do they have food? Konan had prepared for many questions. She had prepared for aggression. She carried enough explosive tags laced in her paper body to level a mountain, not because they would work, but because preparation was who she was. She had prepared for refusal. Nagato's fallback plan, if one existed, was simply to not be where Naruto was. She had prepared for violence. Her escape route was planned to the meter, a body dissolution technique that would scatter her into 10,000 paper sheets across a wide area, faster than any beam could track, theoretically. Though she was not eager to test the theory, she had not prepared for a polite inquiry about catering. Nagato can provide whatever you want, she said, because it was true, and because anything else would be a lie. And Conan had read what happened to people who lied to this boy. Naruto stood up. The movement was instantaneous. One frame sitting, one frame standing, no transition. His body simply rearranging itself into the upright position as if someone had skipped a few pages in a flip book. Naruto wants dango, and mochi, and that cake the snake man promised but lied about. His eyes narrowed, the pupils contracted, steam, just a wisp, just a thread of white vapor, curled from one of the vents on his head. Even the memory of Orochimaru's lie was enough to activate the anger response. Snake Man lied. Naruto ate Snake Man. I am aware, Conan said. Will Paper Lady lie to Naruto? The pause lasted 3 seconds. 3 seconds during which Conan felt the weight of every intelligence report, every casualty count, every shattered landscape, every impossible event that had been attributed to the boy standing in front of her with cookie crumbs on his face and steam rising from his skull. 3 seconds during which she considered the implications of a promise. A real promise, not a diplomatic platitude, not a carefully worded non-commitment, but a genuine, binding, unbreakable promise, made to something that could end her existence with a thought. No, Conan said, and she meant it with every fiber of paper in her body. The steam stopped. The antenna relaxed. The grin came back, wide, happy. The grin of a boy who had been promised food by someone who seemed trustworthy. Okay, let's go see Creepy Eye Man. They traveled. This was the part Conan had not been briefed on. The travel. The journey from the land of grass to Nagato's current base in the land of rain was 3 days on foot, 2 by shinobi travel. Conan could have made it in 1 day flying at full speed. Naruto could have made it in minutes. He could fly. He could move at speeds that sensors could not track. He could probably teleport if he felt like it. His power seemed to have no upper bound in any category. Instead, he walked. He walked because walking was more interesting than flying, he explained, when Conan suggested they could move faster. Walking let you smell things. Walking let you find things on the ground. Walking let you stop at towns and check if they had good food. So they walked. And Naruto floated beside her, 2 feet off the ground, sitting cross-legged in the air as if on an invisible chair. Eating a bag of candy, he materialized from nothing and asking questions. Why is Paper Lady made of paper? It's a jutsu. I can transform my body into paper. Can Paper Lady turn into a book? I have not tried. Naruto ate a book once. It was not good. I am sorry to hear that. It was crunchy but no flavor. I see. They walked through a forest. The trees were tall and green and full of birdsong. Conan navigated by memory, taking paths she had traveled dozens of times on Akatsuki business. Naruto floated alongside her like a bizarre bobbing satellite, his antenna swaying with each air current's candy bag rustling. Paper Lady is quiet, Naruto observed. I prefer silence. Naruto doesn't. Silence is boring. He popped 3 candies into his mouth at once. His cheeks bulged. He chewed wetly. Tell Naruto about paper. And here, despite everything, despite the reports and the craters and the absolute certainty that the creature floating beside her was the most dangerous thing alive, Conan found herself doing something she had not done in years. She talked. She told him about her paper jutsu, about the way she could fold her body into any shape, any form, 1,000,000 pieces of paper moving as one, about the beauty of origami, the discipline, the precision, the transformation of a flat sheet into something 3-dimensional and alive. Naruto listened. He listened with the same total focus he had given the ramen in Shizumi, which was the highest compliment his attention could pay. His pink and black eyes were locked on her face. His candy bag sat forgotten in his lap. Make Naruto a thing, he said. Conan looked at him. She reached into her cloak. She pulled a single sheet of paper, white, perfect, her own body's material, and folded it. Her fingers moved with the automatic precision of a lifetime of practice. 3 folds, 6 creases, a tuck, a lift. In 10 seconds, a paper crane sat in her palm. Small, delicate. Wings extended in mid-flight. She held it out. Naruto took it. His pink fingers, thick, rubbery, the fingers of a creature that could crush boulders without noticing, held the paper crane with excruciating gentleness. He turned it this way and that. He looked at the wings. He looked at the head. He looked at the tiny, precise angles that made a flat thing into a bird. Then he unfolded it, methodically, reversing each fold, flattening each crease, until he was holding a wrinkled, crumpled square of paper that had briefly been beautiful. He put it in his mouth. He chewed. Conan watched the boy who had killed the Raikage, eaten a tailed beast, and destroyed the Sound Village chew on a piece of paper with the thoughtful expression of a food critic at a tasting. He swallowed, made a face. Bland, he said. Needs sauce. Conan stared at him. The stare lasted 4 seconds. Then something happened that had not happened to Conan's face in years. Something that she would later deny, that she would never mention to Naruto. That she would carry as a private, impossible, inexplicable secret for the rest of her life. The corner of her mouth twitched. Not a smile. Conan did not smile, but the ghost of a possibility of a consideration of a smile, and it was more than she had allowed herself since Yahiko died. I will make you another one, she said. Do not eat it. No promises, Naruto said cheerfully. They walked on. The base was in the land of rain. It was always raining in the land of rain. The water fell in gray sheets from a gray sky onto a gray city, and the sound of it, the constant, endless, hammering percussion of rain on metal and stone, filled every space and left no room for silence. Naruto did not like the rain. Naruto is wet, he complained, hovering under a makeshift umbrella he had materialized from thin air, a pink parasol, enormous, decorated with little candy patterns. He held it over his head with one hand and looked at the gray city with the disdain of a cat forced outdoors. It is always raining here, Conan said. That's dumb. Nagato controls the rain. It is part of his surveillance network. Tell Creepy Eye Man to turn it off. He will not. Then Naruto will. He pointed his antenna at the sky. The tip glowed, just barely, just a flicker, a threat rather than an action. Conan put a hand on his arm. It was the first time anyone had touched Naruto voluntarily in years. His skin was warm, warmer than skin should be. It yielded slightly under her fingers, the surface giving way like touching a firm balloon. And underneath the give, there was something solid and immovable and impossibly dense. Conan's fingers registered the sensation, and her brain screamed at her to let go, and she did not let go. The rain is important to him. Conan said. Naruto looked at her hand on his arm, looked at her face. His expression was unreadable, or rather it was readable, but what it read was confusion, the pure blank confusion of a creature that had not been touched kindly in so long that it had forgotten the category. Fine, Naruto said, but Naruto doesn't like being wet. They entered the base. The 6 paths of pain were assembled in the central chamber. 6 bodies stood in a semicircle. The Deva path at center, the animal path, the Asura path, the human path, the Naraka path, the Preta path flanking out. Each body had orange hair. Each body had Rinnegan. Each body stood with the eerie stillness of a puppet at rest, waiting for the puppeteer's fingers. Naruto floated into the chamber, parasol still open, dripping rain on the stone floor. He stopped in front of the 6 paths. He looked at them. He looked at each one in turn. A slow, sweeping scan, his antenna tilting with his head, his black and pink eyes moving from face to face to face. 6 of Paper Lady's boss? He said. He tilted his head the other way. They all smell the same. His nose wrinkled. That's weird. The Deva path stepped forward. Nagato's voice, channeled through the body, filled the chamber. Deep, resonant, carrying the weight of a man who had suffered and the authority of a man who had decided to make suffering the foundation of world order. Naruto Uzumaki. I am pain. I am the leader of the Akatsuki. I am the one who will bring peace to this broken world. Naruto looked at him. You're the boss? I am God. God is boring looking. A silence moved through the room. Conan, standing by the wall, did not react. She had spent the last 3 days with the boy. Nothing he said surprised her anymore. Pain pressed forward. The Deva Path's Rinnegan, concentric rings of purple, the eyes of the sage's lineage, the eyes that saw through all things, fixed on Naruto with the full weight of their power. This world is broken, Pain said. Nations wage war. Villages breed soldiers. Children starve while generals feast. I have seen this suffering. I have lived this suffering. I have lost everything to this suffering. My family, my country, my friend. And I have decided that the only path to peace is through pain. Through a weapon so terrible, so overwhelming, that the nations will have no choice but to lay down their arms. He paused. The chamber echoed. I built the akatsuki to be that weapon. But you are something else. You are not a weapon that can be built or bought or controlled. You are a force, a truth, the living proof that there are powers in this world beyond the shinobi, beyond the biju, beyond anything their petty wars can match. He paused again. The Rinnegan seemed to glow. The world needs to understand fear, real fear, the kind of fear that makes war impossible, because the consequences of war are too absolute, too total, too final. You are that fear, Naruto Uzumaki. You are what the world needs to see to believe that fighting is futile. It was a good speech. It was the kind of speech that had recruited S-rank criminals and turned broken idealists into weapons and reshaped the political landscape of nations. It was compelling and powerful and built on a foundation of genuine suffering and genuine belief. And Naruto had listened to the whole thing with his head tilted and his antenna bobbing and an expression of focused, patient attention. Then Naruto said, "So, no dango yet?" The silence that followed was the loudest silence the chamber had ever produced. The Diva Path's mouth opened, closed. The Rinnegan flickered, not mechanically, not from technique, but from the sheer cognitive dissonance of a man who had spoken to Kage and warlords and people on their knees and had just been asked about dango. Conan, Pain said. Conan was already moving. She had anticipated this. She had, during the 3-day journey, developed a working theory of Naruto Uzumaki's engagement pattern. Food first, everything else second. No exceptions. She had sent a paper clone ahead the previous night with instructions to prepare. A door opened. A subordinate entered carrying a tray. On the tray, dango. Fresh, steaming, perfectly glazed Mitarashi dango, 12 skewers, arranged in a fan pattern on a lacquered plate. Naruto's antenna went rigid. His pupils dilated. His mouth split open in a grin that literally extended beyond the normal boundaries of his face, his cheeks stretching like rubber to accommodate the sheer magnitude of his joy. Dango! He descended from his floating position, cross-legged in the air, and landed on the floor and was eating before the tray was fully set down. 4 skewers in the first 30 seconds. The subordinate, a young rain ninja who had been told very little about who he was serving, backed away slowly, tray still in his hands, staring at the boy who was eating dango faster than physics should have allowed. Naruto finished. He licked each finger individually. He looked up at the Deva Path with the magnanimous satisfaction of a creature whose primary need had been met. Okay, Naruto will listen now. What followed was the most surreal diplomatic negotiation in the history of the shinobi world. Nagato, speaking through pain, attempted to recruit the most dangerous entity on the planet. He spoke of goals, the collection of the tailed beasts, the construction of a weapon, the imposition of peace through superior force. He spoke of ideology, the cycle of hatred, the necessity of understanding suffering, the dream of a world where no child went hungry. That one. That sentence. That single, almost offhand clause buried in the middle of a grand philosophical argument where no child went hungry, landed Naruto's chewing slowed, then stopped. He was holding a half-eaten dango skewer. Syrup dripped onto his gi. He did not notice. His black and pink eyes, which had been tracking the Deva Path with casual, unfocused interest, locked on. Say that again, Naruto said. The Deva Path paused. Which part? The hungry part. Nagato recalibrated. He was not accustomed to being asked to repeat himself. He was less accustomed to identifying which of his words had actually penetrated a mind he had assumed was impenetrable. I said that no child should go hungry, Nagato said. I knew hunger as a child. I nearly died of it. Nobody helped me when I was hungry. Naruto went very still. The stillness was terrifying. Not because of what it promised. Not because it was the precursor to rage or destruction or the activation of some apocalyptic technique. It was terrifying because it was human. For the first time since anyone in this room had seen him, for the first time since the intelligence reports and the crater photographs and the legends of the pink demon had replaced the reality of a boy, Naruto Uzumaki looked like a child who had been told something he recognized. The dango skewer hung limp in his hand. Syrup dripped. The pink of his irises, the hot, saturated alien pink, seemed to dim. Not darken. Dim, like a fire banked down to its coals. Nobody helped Naruto either, he said. 5 words. 3rd person. Child grammar. Simple vocabulary. And every person in that chamber, Conan by the wall, the subordinate by the door, the 6 paths standing in their semicircle, felt those words land like a hammer on something that had been cracked for a long time and had just broken through. Conan watched from the side. Her face was blank. Her body was still. But inside the carefully constructed architecture of her emotional control, something shifted. Not collapsed. Conan's walls did not collapse, but shifted, settled. The way a building shifts in an earthquake, the structural elements finding a new alignment, not damaged, but changed. She was looking at a boy who had been told something about hunger by a man who had been hungry, and the boy had understood, and the understanding was the first real connection either of them had made with another living being in years. And it was happening in a room full of weapons and corpse puppets and the gray, endless rain of a country that only knew suffering. It was not beautiful. It was not redemptive. It was not the kind of moment that stories built toward, the hero finding understanding, the villain finding empathy, the narrative arc bending toward justice. It was just 2 broken people recognizing the same scar. Nagato spoke again, softer now. Through the Deva path, his voice lost some of its godlike resonance and became something rawer, something closer to the boy from Ame, who had watched his dog die and his parents bleed and his friend fall, and had decided that the only answer to a world that hurt was a world that feared. I am not asking you to join the Akatsuki, Nagato said. I am not asking you to fight for me or serve me or follow any orders. I am asking you to simply exist, to wander, to be what you already are, a truth that the world cannot ignore, a force that the nations must account for. If they fear you enough, if the thought of angering you is terrible enough, they will stop fighting each other. Not because they want peace, because peace will be safer than the alternative. Naruto looked at him, processing, the gears of his mind turning slowly, grinding through concepts that were not built for his cognitive architecture. Geopolitics, deterrence, the calculus of fear and stability. These were not things that Naruto's brain was designed for. His brain was designed for food and fun and fighting and the next shiny thing. But underneath the gears, underneath the chaos and the hunger and the pink void where a human psyche should have been, something understood. Not the words, not the strategy, the feeling. The idea that being afraid was what happened when you were small and the world was big and nobody fed you. So Naruto keeps eating, he said. Nagato, speaking through the Deva path, through 6 dead bodies, through a network of chakra receivers and jutsu and the apparatus of a false godhood, said yes. Essentially, Naruto stood up. He collected the remaining dango, 3 skewers, and held them in one hand. He looked around the chamber. He looked at the 6 paths, standing like statues. He looked at the gray walls and the dripping water and the rain that fell endlessly beyond the windows. This place is boring, he said, and wet and boring. He walked toward the exit. He passed Conan. He stopped. He reached into the air and produced magic materialization, casual, instant, a small paper crane, not folded from real paper, constructed from his own power, molecule by molecule, a perfect replica of the one Conan had made for him, down to the creases. He held it out to her. For paper, lady. Don't eat it. Conan took the crane. It was warm. It was pink. It was technically a piece of a living god creature formed into the shape of something she had taught him, and it sat in her palm like a tiny, warm, impossible gift. Naruto walked out. Nagato, watching through the Deva path's eyes, said nothing for a long time. The rain fell. The chamber was quiet. The 6 paths stood in their semicircle, and the chakra receivers hummed, and the man behind the puppets, the real Nagato, emaciated and broken in his walking apparatus somewhere in the tower above, sat in the dark and listened to the rain and thought about hunger. He was going to do what we needed anyway, Conan said. Yes. He doesn't know he's doing it. No. He doesn't care. No. Conan looked at the paper crane in her hand. She closed her fingers around it. He is not what I expected, she said. No, Nagato said. And his voice, the real voice, not the projected one, the thin and tired and honest voice of a dying man in a machine, was quiet. He is not what anyone expected. This was not an alliance. It was not an agreement. It was not the thing the Akatsuki had set out to build, a controlled weapon, a directed force, a tool of ideology. It was simply the moment when the most dangerous man in the world and the most dangerous boy in the world sat in the same room and recognized the same hunger. And then the boy left with Dango and the man stayed with his rain, and nothing changed and everything changed. Naruto flew through the rain. He did not put up the parasol this time. The rain hit his skin and ran off in pink-tinged streams, and he did not mind. The Dango was good. The paper lady was interesting. The creepy eye man was weird but understood about being hungry. Below him, the land of rain spread out in gray and silver, and beyond it, the green of the land of grass, and beyond that, the vast, food-filled expanse of the shinobi world. Naruto hummed. He ate a dango skewer. He flew northeast. The wind was warm for the season. He was still hungry. Weeks passed. Naruto wandered the way water wanders, finding the path of least resistance, pooling where conditions were favorable, moving on when they weren't. He crossed the land of grass and the land of waterfalls, and the long, quiet border region between the minor nations where the roads were thin and the towns were small, and nobody had much of anything, but everybody had just enough to get by. He ate at every town he passed through. Most of them evacuated when they saw him coming. He did not notice the evacuations. He noticed the food. A stall left unattended with fresh yakitori still on the grill. Naruto ate it. A bakery with the door open and the display case full and the baker nowhere in sight. Naruto ate that too. A picnic spread out on a blanket in a park, abandoned mid-meal by a family who had seen the antenna on the horizon and gathered their children and run. Naruto ate everything, including the pickled vegetables, which he spat out because pickled vegetables were bad, and sat on the blanket and watched the clouds and kicked his feet. He left the towns untouched. The buildings stood. The streets were clean. The only evidence of his passing was empty plates and the lingering scent of sugar. The legend refined itself. The pink demon was not, people began to realize, a destroyer. Not actively, not intentionally. He did not burn villages. He did not kill indiscriminately. He did not lay waste to landscapes unless someone gave him a reason, and the reasons were specific and well documented. Do not attack him. Do not lie to him about food. Do not refuse him food. Do not touch his food. Follow these rules and the pink demon would eat your pantry, maybe turn a rock into a cake and leave. Break these rules and your village would become a crater and your name would become a cautionary tale. It was, in a horrible sideways backwards kind of way, the peace that Nagato had dreamed of. Not because anyone agreed. Not because anyone understood. Not because the shinobi nation sat down and decided that war was wrong. But because there was a boy out there who might wander through your battlefield. And if a stray kunai hit him, or if a burning building ruined his lunch, or if the sound of fighting woke him from a nap, then everybody, every single person on both sides of whatever conflict had been raging, would be turned into candy and eaten. Border skirmishes decreased by 60% in the first month. By the second month, 3 active territorial disputes had been quietly resolved through diplomatic channels, which was a phrase that actually meant both sides realized the disputed territory was near the pink demon's last known location and decided it wasn't worth it. By the 3rd month, the Tsuchikage, Onoki, the stubborn, ancient, unbelieving Tsuchikage, sent a formal proposal to the other 4 Kage offices suggesting a mutual non-aggression pact in all territories within 200 miles of the Pink Demon's projected travel path. The document was titled Regional Stability Framework. It did not mention Naruto by name. It did not need to. Every Kage signed it within a week. Naruto did not know about the pact. He was eating melon bread in a forest. And then, one evening in late autumn, something brought him home. He did not decide to go. That was the thing. Naruto did not make decisions the way people made decisions, weighing options, considering consequences, choosing a path. He made decisions the way weather makes decisions. Something shifted. A current changed. A pressure system moved. And suddenly he was walking south toward the land of fire, toward the place he had left 4 years ago with no intention of returning, and he did not know why. He flew most of the way, high up above the clouds, where the air was thin and cold, and the world below was just patches of color, green and brown and blue, and the tiny pinpricks of light that were villages. He did not look down. He looked ahead. His antenna was pointing forward, rigid, like a compass needle locked onto true north, except his true north was not a direction. It was a smell. Dango, sweet sauce, grilled mochi, the evening breeze carrying the scent of festival food through narrow streets, mixing with the smoke of lanterns and the chatter of voices and the warm, complicated, terrible smell of a village that had hated him and fed him and feared him and failed him. Konoha, he crossed the wall at sunset. Not over it, not around it, through it. His body passed through the stone and chakra barriers like a hand passing through smoke. The defensive seals flared, the detection arrays screamed, the chakra-reinforced masonry tried to repel him, and found that it was trying to repel something that did not acknowledge the concept of being repelled. He walked through the wall as if it were a bead curtain and came out the other side into the streets of Konohagakure, the village hidden in the leaves, the place where a drunk chunin had thrown a kunai through a child's chest and the child had giggled. The alarm went up instantly, not the standard alarm, not the invasion siren or the natural disaster horn or the Biju alert that they had practiced every 6 months since the Ninetales attack. This was a new alarm. It had been installed 3 years ago, after Naruto's departure, after the intelligence report started coming in, after the concept of a threat that could not be fought required a response protocol that said, essentially, run. The alarm was a single, sustained tone, high-pitched, almost musical. It played for 5 seconds and then a recorded voice, calm, female. The voice of someone who had been chosen specifically because she sounded like she was announcing a gate change at a train station rather than the end of the world, said, "Pink alert, all civilians proceed to designated shelters. All shinobi report to observation positions. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage." The village moved. Civilians who had practiced this drill, who had practiced it while not really believing it would ever happen, the way people practice earthquake drills in places that haven't had an earthquake in a century, found that the muscle memory was real and the fear was realer. Doors closed, shutters latched. The market district, which had been bustling with the evening crowd, emptied in 3 minutes. The shinobi deployed. Every available ninja in Konoha, jonin, special jonin, anbu, root, every sword and scroll and summoning contract the village could muster in under 5 minutes, assembled between Naruto and the village center. They formed concentric rings, defensive positions, overlapping fields of fire, the finest military force that the strongest shinobi village in the world could produce, arranged in perfect tactical formation, ready for absolutely nothing, because nothing they could do would matter, and every single one of them knew it. They stood there anyway, because they were shinobi of the leaf, and the will of fire burned in their chests, and if this was where they died, they would die facing the thing that killed them. Naruto walked through them. His hands were in his pockets. His antenna bobbed. He was looking around, not at the shinobi, not at the weapons pointed at him, not at the fear carved into every visible face, but at the buildings, the streets, the places where he had walked as a child, the corner where Takeda's sweet shop had been, the alley where he had found the 2 coins in the gutter, the rooftop where he used to sit and watch the sunset because it was the only time the village was beautiful to him. Someone attacked. A jonin on the outer ring, young, scared, acting on reflex rather than orders. A fireball. Keiton, great fireball jutsu, C rank, the standard combat technique of every fire-natured shinobi in Konoha. A sphere of flame 8 feet in diameter that crossed the distance between the jonin and Naruto in less than a second. It hit Naruto in the face. The flames washed over his head and shoulders and spread across his body like water over a stone. His hair blonde, or what appeared to be blonde, the human coloring that still clung to the pink underneath, ruffled in the heat. His skin did not burn. His clothes did not ignite. The fire rolled off him and dissipated, and Naruto did not break stride, did not turn his head, did not acknowledge the attack in any way. More attacks came. Not organized, not commanded. Individual shinobi, acting on fear and training and the desperate need to do something, anything, in the face of something they could not fight. Kunai bounced off his skin with the metallic plink of coins dropped on rubber. A wind jutsu hit him and parted around his body like a river around a boulder. An earth wall rose in his path, and he walked through it, his body phasing through the stone as if one of them was not solid, and the wall remained standing behind him with a Naruto-shaped hole in it. A Hyuga, a branch member, brave and stupid, activated the gentle fist and struck Naruto's shoulder with a Tenketsu ceiling palm strike. His hand sank into the flesh. The pink matter rippled. The Hyuga felt his fingers go numb, not from cold, not from chakra disruption, but from contact with something his nervous system could not process, something that his Byakugan was showing him as a void, a blank space in reality where a body should have been. He pulled his hand back and stumbled away and did not try again. And Aburame sent bugs. The Kikaichu swarmed Naruto's body, trying to drain his chakra. They landed on his skin and immediately went dormant. Not dead, dormant. Their tiny insect bodies shut down, overwhelmed by contact with an energy source that was not chakra, that their biology had no category for, that was to chakra what the ocean was to a raindrop. The Aburame recalled them. The bugs returned sluggish and confused and refused to go near Naruto again. And Inuzuka, Tsume, the clan head, riding her partner Kuromaru, launched herself at Naruto in a fang over fang, a drilling attack that could bore through stone walls. She hit him. The rotation stopped. The drilling spin halted against his body as if she had struck a wall of infinite density. She bounced off, literally bounced, his body's elastic surface catching her momentum and throwing it back, sending her and Kuromaru tumbling across the street in a shower of dust and confusion. She got up. She was not hurt. Naruto was not aware she had been there. Naruto walked, past the Jonin rings, past the Anbu, past the root operatives who stood in the deepest shadow, Danzo's private army, each one a weapon honed beyond humanity, and each one standing very, very still as the boy walked past, because Danzo had not given the order to engage, and Danzo, whatever his many, many faults, was not stupid enough to give that order. The shinobi fell silent. The attack stopped. One by one, then all at once, the defenders of Konoha lowered their weapons and stood in the street and watched the boy walk past them like ghosts watching the living, present, visible, utterly unable to interact. Naruto followed the smell. It led him through the market district, past the rebuilt stalls, past the new buildings that had been erected over the years, past all the small changes that time had made to a village that kept going, because villages do. It led him to a corner that he almost recognized, a street that was almost familiar, and at the end of the street, a ramen stand. It was not Ichiraku, not the original. The original was across the village, still running, still serving, still the place where old man Tochi made the best miso ramen in the world. This was something else. A small stand, barely a stand really, just a counter and 3 stools and a cloth awning, set up in the market district, in the spot where Takeda's sweet shop had been a lifetime ago. A sign hung from the awning. Tucci's, Market Branch. The counter was empty. The stool was empty. The stand was closed. The grill was off. The pots were cold. The usual tools of ramen preparation were put away. Everybody had evacuated. The stand was supposed to be dark and still and abandoned like everything else in the district. But on the counter, under a cloth, was a bowl. And on the cloth, weighted down by the bowl, was a note. Naruto stopped walking. The shinobi who had been following at a distance, Anbu mostly, maintaining the mandated 500-meter minimum, though several had crept closer because they could not help themselves, stopped too. Naruto looked at the counter, looked at the cloth, looked at the note. He reached out. The way he reached was different. It was not casual grab of a creature seizing food, the shoveling motion of infinite appetite consuming without thought. It was careful, slow, the way you reach for something fragile, the way you reach for something that you are afraid might not be real. His pink fingers closed on the edge of the cloth. He lifted it. 1 bowl of ramen, miso, extra pork, a soft-boiled egg, halved, scallions, nori, a spiral of Naruto fish cake in the center. It was still warm. The broth still steamed faintly in the cooling evening air, as if it had been placed there moments ago, as if someone had timed it. Not with a clock, but with something deeper. The instinct of a cook who had been making this bowl for years, in the hope that someday the right person would sit down and eat it. Naruto picked up the note. It was written in a child's handwriting. Large, simple characters, the kind of penmanship that assumed the reader might not know difficult kanji, that assumed the reader was a boy who had never finished school. For the pink demon, from Teuchi. No charge. The paper was folded, not randomly, deliberately. The folds formed a shape, a paper crane. Small and imperfect, not made with Conan's origami precision, but with the clumsy care of someone who had heard a story about a paper crane and a pink demon and had tried their best. Naruto held the paper crane. He held the bowl. He stood at the counter in the empty market district of the village that had beaten him, starved him, thrown a kunai through his chest, and driven him out. And he held a bowl of ramen that someone had made for him and left with a note that said no charge. He stood there for a long time. The shinobi watching from the rooftops and the alleys and the defensive positions around the district saw something they did not understand. They saw the pink demon. The boy who had killed the Raikage, eaten a tailed beast, destroyed the Sound Village, and rewritten the entire risk architecture of the shinobi world. Standing at an empty ramen counter, holding a bowl with both hands and not eating it, he was just holding it. Then, very slowly, Naruto sat down. He sat on the middle stool. The wood creaked under him. He set the bowl on the counter. He set the paper crane beside it. He picked up the chopsticks, wooden, disposable, left beside the bowl, and he split them. He ate, slowly, bite by bite, each noodle lifted from the broth with care, each slice of pork chewed and tasted, each sip of broth taken from the edge of the bowl with closed eyes. The antenna on his head swayed gently, a metronome keeping time with his chewing. His black and pink eyes, usually bright and restless and full of the chaotic energy of something that was always looking for the next thing to consume, were quiet, still. The pink had dimmed to something softer, warmer. The black was less void and more shadow, the deep, gentle dark of a room at night, not empty but resting. He finished the bowl. He set it down, empty, clean, not a drop remaining. He reached up, touched the paper crane. His fingertip, thick, pink, the finger of a creature that could crush diamonds, traced the folds, the wings, the head, the tiny, imperfect creases that someone had made with human hands and human effort and human care. Someone saved Naruto food, he said. His voice was small, not weak, small. The voice of a 6-year-old boy standing at a counter with 2 crumpled coins, asking for a single stick of dango in a village that would not sell it to him. He sat there for a long time. The evening deepened. The lanterns in the district, activated by timers, came on one by one, casting pools of warm light across the empty street. The shadows lengthened. The air cooled. The last heat of the day rose from the cobblestones and dispersed into a sky that was turning from gold to purple to the deep, endless blue of a night with no clouds. Naruto sat on the stool with his hands on the counter and his eyes on the empty bowl and did not move. Then, from the crowd of shinobi at the edge of the district, someone pushed through. He was old. He was tired. He was wearing the Hokage's robes, but they hung on him like curtains on a thin frame. The weight of the office visible in the stoop of his shoulders and the slowness of his steps. He was not carrying a weapon. He was not flanked by guards. He was not projecting the presence of the god of shinobi, the professor, the man who had mastered every jutsu in Konoha's arsenal. He was just a man, walking toward a boy, alone. Lord Hokage, someone said behind him. Hiruzen raised one hand. The someone went silent. He walked through the empty district. His sandals scraped against the cobblestones. The sound was very loud in the silence. He walked past the overturned cart that someone had abandoned during the evacuation, past the fruit stand with its awning still unfurled, past the spot where, 8 years ago, a drunk chunin had thrown a kunai at a child and changed the world. He reached the ramen stand. He stopped 3 feet from the counter, 3 feet from Naruto. The boy looked up. "Old man Hokage," Naruto said. Hiruzen looked at him, at the antenna, at the eyes, at the pink that showed through the human coloring like light through thin paper, at the boy who had been born in this village and raised in this village and hated by this village, and who had become something that the village, that every nation, that every shinobi and soldier and sage and god on the planet could not comprehend, could not fight, could not stop. I'm sorry, Naruto. I failed you. The words came out simply, no ceremony, no caveat, no political calculus about what a Hokage should or should not say. Just a man looking at a boy and saying the thing that was true. Naruto looked at him. His head tilted. The antenna tilted with it. His expression was unreadable, not because it was complex, but because it was simple in a way that complexity could not parse. He was trying to understand the words, not the language, the concept, apology, failure, sorry. These were things that belonged to a grammar of human interaction that Naruto had never been taught, that nobody had ever bothered to teach him, that the village had decided he did not deserve to learn. He worked through it slowly, like someone sounding out a word in a language they had heard but never spoken. Did old man Hokage make the ramen? He asked. Hiruzen's eyes were wet. The tears ran down his wrinkled face, through the creases, along the lines, tracing the topography of 7 decades of decisions that had led to this moment. He did not wipe them. No, he said. But I wish I had. Naruto looked at him. Really looked. The full, total, absolute attention that Naruto gave to things he found important. Ramen, dango, people who were honest with him. He looked at the old man with the tears on his face and the robes that were too big and the hands that were not holding a weapon, and he processed the data with his strange, vast, childlike mind. He did not understand the apology. He did not understand the failure. He did not understand the politics or the history or the 1,000 small decisions that had conspired to make his childhood a wasteland and his adolescence a legend. But he understood the tears. He understood, on some level deeper than words, that the old man was sad and that the sadness was about him, and that this was something that had not happened before. Nobody had been sad for Naruto, afraid of Naruto, angry at Naruto, but sad for him. The specifics directed sadness of a person who wished they had done better. That was new. The antenna on his head glowed, faintly. Not the hot, destructive glow of the transfiguration beam. Not the white-hot fury of the vice shout. A gentle glow, warm, pink, soft. The kind of light that a nightlight makes in a child's room. Not bright enough to illuminate, just bright enough to say you are not alone in the dark. Old man Hokage is weird, Naruto said, and then he smiled. Not the too wide, too many teeth stretching grin of the pink demon. A smaller smile, a quieter one. A smile that was maybe possibly in the right light from the right angle, the smile of a boy. He stood up from the stool. He floated, his body lifting, his feet leaving the ground, rising above the counter with the effortless weightlessness of something that had never been bound by gravity or anything else. He looked out over the district, over the rooftops where Anbu crouched in the shadows, over the streets where Jonin stood in their combat stances with weapons they knew were useless, over the village where 100,000 people huddled behind closed doors and listened to the silence and prayed to gods that were smaller and weaker and less strange than the boy floating above their market district. Naruto is leaving now, he said. Naruto has places to be. He rose higher. 10 feet, 20. The rooftops fell away beneath him. The village spread out, the residential districts, the training grounds, the Hokage Tower with its curved roof, the monument carved into the mountainside where 4 stone faces watched the village with permanent, unchanging expressions. He paused, looked down at Hiruzen, who was still standing at the counter, still looking up, still crying. Old man Hokage. Yes, Naruto? Tell old man Tochi. He paused. His mouth worked. The words came slowly, not because they were difficult words, but because they were unfamiliar words. Words from a vocabulary he did not use, words that belong to the part of human language that deals with gratitude and connection and the small, specific, irreplaceable warmth of knowing that someone somewhere thought about you when you were not there. Tell him. The ramen was good. He rose into the sky. Fast now, the village shrinking, the faces on the monument growing smaller, the lights of Konoha becoming a cluster of stars on the dark surface of the earth. He cleared the wall. cleared the forest, cleared the mountains beyond the forest. He flew west, into the sunset, trailing a faint pink contrail against the deepening sky. Every shinobi in Konoha watched him go. They watched from the rooftops and the streets and the walls and the windows and every vantage point the village offered. They watched the pink speck climb into the sunset and shrink and fade and disappear. And when it was gone, when the sky was empty and the evening was quiet, and the only thing left was the memory of what had happened and the bowl on the counter, nobody moved. Nobody knew what to do next. The drills had not covered this part. The protocols addressed arrival and presence and the terrifying possibility of engagement, but there was no protocol for after. No instructions for the moment when the most dangerous thing in the world said the ramen was good and flew away. Hiruzen stood at the empty counter. His hand rested on the bowl. The bowl was still warm, clean, empty, set down gently, carefully, by hands that could destroy cities. It sat on the cloth, next to the paper crane that Tochi had folded, and the chopsticks were placed neatly beside it, parallel, aligned, the unconscious tidiness of a boy who had been raised in a village that threw things at him and had somehow, impossibly, learned to put things back where they belonged. Hiruzen picked up the bowl. He held it in both hands. It was light, just a bowl, ceramic, white with a blue spiral, the kind you could buy at any market stall for a few coins. He held it like it was precious. Because it was the proof, the only proof, the small and fragile and ceramic proof, that somewhere inside the pink demon, inside the walking catastrophe that the shinobi world called an extinction-class threat, there was still a boy who liked ramen and said thank you in his own way and placed his bowl down gently when he was done. He paid, Hiruzen said, to nobody, to everybody. To the portrait of Minato in his office that he had been talking to for 8 years without an answer. He stood at the counter in the empty district and held the bowl and let the tears fall on the cloth and on the paper crane and on the place where a boy had sat and eaten the ramen that someone had saved for him. And the night came down soft and dark around the village, and the lanterns swayed in the breeze. And somewhere far away, growing smaller with every second, a pink light flew through the sky and hummed a song it did not know the words to. Konoha breathed again. Slowly, the way you breathe after a wave has passed and you realize you are still standing. In the morning, the story spread, not through official channels, through the ones that mattered. A jonin told his wife. An Anbu captain told her squad in the debrief and then told them to forget she had told them, which guaranteed they would tell everyone they knew. A genin who had been watching from a window told his friends, who told their parents, who told their neighbors. By noon, the entire village knew. The pink demon had come home. He had eaten a bowl of ramen. He had said it was good. He had left. He had not hurt anyone. He had not destroyed anything. He had sat on a stool and eaten ramen and flown away. The information passed through Konoha's collective consciousness like a stone dropped in still water. The ripples moved outward. They reached the edges and reflected back and interfered with each other and created patterns that nobody had predicted. People did not know what to do with this information. The pink demon was supposed to be a monster. Monsters did not sit on stools. Monsters did not eat slowly. Monsters did not say the ramen was good and mean it. Some people decided it was a trick. Some people decided it proved he was even more dangerous than they thought. Unpredictable, incomprehensible, a creature that could destroy you or sit beside you, and you would never know which until it was too late. Some people, a few, a small and quiet few, decided something else. They decided that the boy had been hungry and someone had fed him and he had said thank you. And that was the whole story. And the whole story was enough. Toichi, the original Toichi, old man Toichi of Ichiraku Ramen, the man who had been making that extra bowl every night for years, heard the news from Ayame, who had heard it from a customer, who had heard it from a chunin, who had heard it from an Anbu captain who was not supposed to be talking. He heard that the bowl he had arranged to be placed at the market branch had been eaten, that the paper crane had been held, that the pink demon had said his ramen was good. Tochi sat behind his counter and put his face in his hands and cried. Not from fear, not from relief, from the specific, sharp, hollowed out grief of a man who had served a boy ramen when no one else would, and who had known, even then, that the boy was hungry in a way that ramen could not fix, and who had kept making the bowl anyway, night after night, year after year, because it was the only thing he could do, and doing nothing was not an option. "Ayame," he said when he could speak. "Yes, Dad? Make the bowl again tonight." "He's gone, Dad. He flew away." "I know. Make the bowl." Ayame made the bowl. She made it every night for the rest of her father's life. And after her father died, she made it herself. And after she retired, her apprentice made it. And after the apprentice retired, someone else made it. And the bowl was always there, every night on the counter of the market branch of Ichiraku Ramen, covered with a cloth, with a note that said no charge. Nobody ever ate it. That was not the point. The point was that it was there. That someone, in a village that had failed a boy in every way a village could fail, was still trying, still cooking, still leaving the light on. It was not enough. It was never enough. But it was the best they had. The mountain range was called the spine of the world. It was the longest continuous geological formation in the Shinobi continent, a chain of peaks that ran from the northern ice fields to the southern coast, bisecting the landmass like a scar. The peaks were high. Some of them broke through the clouds. The air was thin and cold and tasted like metal, and the only things that lived at the highest elevations were hawks and snow foxes, and a particular species of moss that clung to the windward faces of the rocks with the stubborn determination of a living thing that had nothing better to do. Naruto sat on the highest peak. He was floating, technically, cross-legged in the air, 3 feet above the summit, which was a sharp ridge of dark stone, barely wide enough for a person to stand on. But sitting was how he thought of it, so sitting is what it was. The sunset was enormous. From this height, with the world curving away in every direction, the sunset was not a line of color on the horizon, but a dome, a hemisphere of orange and gold and pink, painting the sky from edge to edge, turning the clouds into architecture and the air into amber. He had a bag of mochi, magic materialization. He had pulled it from nowhere 30 minutes ago, the same way he pulled everything from nowhere. A thought, a desire, a small flex of something that was not chakra and not muscle and not will, but all three at once and something else besides. The bag was paper. The mochi was perfect. Each piece was a different flavor: strawberry, green tea, red bean, mango, chocolate, and he ate them one at a time, chewing slowly, tasting each one with the focused attention that he gave to all food, which was the focused attention that other people gave to sunsets and symphonies and the faces of people they loved. Below him, the shinobi world spread out like a map. He could see it all from here. The dark green of the land of fire's forests, the tawny brown of the land of wind's desert, the gray blue of the land of water's coast, where the ocean met the land in a line of white surf that was, from this height, as thin as a thread. He could see the lights coming on now, as the sunset faded, as the blue deepened, as the stars began to appear like salt spilled across dark cloth. Tiny lights, yellow and warm, the lights of villages and towns and cities, all the places where people lived and cooked and ate and slept and worried about the boy in the sky who was looking down at their lights and eating mochi. He did not think about the 5 Cogs summit that was being convened at this very moment. An emergency session, the second in a year. The Kaji of 4 remaining great nations sitting around a cracked table, trying to build a world around the existence of something they could not control. He did not think about the intelligence files. Updated daily now, a full-time team in every nation's intelligence division, devoted entirely to tracking his movements and updating the risk maps that had become the most important strategic documents in the history of shinobi warfare. He did not think about the akatsuki, reorganizing in the shadows, Nagato's plans quietly shifting around the reality that the weapon he had dreamed of already existed and did not take orders. He did not think about the legends, the pink demon, the boy who eats, the walking appetite, the candy god, names that children whispered and adults used to scare each other, and that historians would argue about for centuries, the way historians always argued about things that were too large and too strange and too real to fit into the categories they had built for understanding the world. He did not think about any of it. He was eating mochi. The mochi was good. The sunset was pretty. The wind was cold, but he did not feel cold because his body did not feel things that it did not want to feel. And Naruto did not want to feel cold, so the cold went somewhere else and bothered someone who cared. A hawk circled below him. Far below, 1,000 feet down, riding the thermal currents, its brown wings spread wide. It turned in slow, lazy circles, and Naruto watched it, and for a moment he wondered what it would taste like, and then he decided that hawks were too small to be satisfying, and also he had mochi, and mochi was better. He ate another piece. Green tea, his favorite. The powder was earthy, and the sweetness was subtle, and the texture was exactly right. Firm on the outside, soft and yielding inside, the kind of food that made you close your eyes when you chewed. His eyes closed. The sunset painted his face in gold and pink, the gold of the dying light, the pink of what he was. His antenna swayed in the wind, the tip catching the last rays of sun and glowing softly, a faint, warm, harmless light. He sat in the sky above the world, alone, as he had always been alone, as he had been alone in the market when Takeda refused to sell him dango, as he had been alone in the street when Mizuno threw the kunai, as he had been alone in the sewer that became a pink void, and in the clearing where Kasame became a jawbreaker, and in the glass crater where the Raikage became nothing, and in the ruins of the Sound Village where Orochimaru became chocolate, and in the rain of Ame where Nagato understood hunger, and on the stool in Konoha where someone had left him ramen. Alone. The word does not mean what people think it means. People think alone means without others. It does not. It means without mirrors, without something to reflect yourself in, without something that sees you and shows you what you are. Naruto Uzumaki had been surrounded by people his entire life. Villagers, shinobi, enemies, merchants, cooks, spies, gods, beasts, and none of them had been mirrors. They had been walls, barriers, things that his existence bounced off of and returned unchanged. He saw them and they did not see him, and he did not see himself in them, and so he was alone, perpetually alone. The most powerful being in the world, sitting on a mountain, eating mochi, and not knowing why the sunset made him feel something he did not have a word for. The hunger was always there. Not the physical hunger. That was simple, manageable, the easy problem that had a solution on every street corner and in every forest and in the infinite well of magic materialization that could produce any food from any thought. The other hunger, the one that food could not fill, the one that had been there since before the kunai, since before the sewer, since before the pink, the hunger that was born in a hospital room when a father sealed a demon into his son and died, and a mother held her baby for the last time and died, and a village looked at what was left and saw a monster instead of a child. That hunger, the hunger for the thing that Tochi's ramen had touched but not filled, the thing that Conan's paper crane had brushed but not grasped, the thing that Hiruzen's tears had acknowledged but not solved, the thing that was not food and not power and not fun and not candy and not the satisfied warmth of a full stomach, but something else. Something that Naruto had been reaching for his whole life, with hands that could reshape the world and had never once held the thing they were reaching for. He did not know what it was. He did not have the word. He would never have the word. His mind was a beautiful, broken, impossible thing, ancient and childish, powerful and simple, vast enough to contain the memory of something that had existed before the Sage of Six Paths, and too small to contain the concept of being loved. The last piece of mochi. Chocolate. He held it in his fingers, turned it over, looked at it. Small and round and dark and perfect, sitting in his palm like a tiny planet, he ate it. He chewed, he swallowed. The bag was empty. He let it go. The wind caught it and carried it away, a small paper shape tumbling against the purple sky, shrinking, disappearing, gone. Naruto sat in the sky and looked at the world. The lights below were brighter now. The stars above were brighter too. Between them, between the lights of people and the lights of infinity, he hovered, suspended, a small figure in a big sky, made of something that the world had no name for and no defense against and no understanding of. The wind blew. His antenna swayed. He hummed. It was the same tuneless song, the one he had been humming since he was 6 years old, since the night in the market, since the first giggle and the first beam and the first taste of chocolate, that used to be a man. He did not know where the song came from. He did not know what it meant. It was just sound, just vibration, just the noise a boy makes when he is alone and the sky is big and there's nothing left to eat and the world is quiet and he wants to fill the quiet with something, anything, even something that has no words. Below him, the shinobi world slept. It slept with one eye open. It slept with dango on its windowsills and emergency protocols in its filing cabinets and a permanent, low-grade, civilization-wide awareness that somewhere up there, in the dark between the stars and the ground, a boy was floating and humming, and he was hungry. He was always hungry, and the hunger was the kind that could not be fed because it was not about food and had never been about food and would never be about food, no matter how much he ate, no matter how many enemies became sweets, no matter how many bowls of ramen appeared on empty counters with notes that said no charge. The hunger was about a counter that would not serve him, a village that would not hold him, a world that had looked at a starving child and decided he was a demon and had been right, in the end, in the worst possible way, not because he was a demon, but because they had made him one. Fed him nothing and wondered why he ate everything, gave him nothing and wondered why he took everything, showed him nothing of love and wondered why he showed nothing back. The mountain wind was cold, the stars were bright, the world was dark and full of tiny lights that meant nothing to the boy in the sky and everything to the people below. Naruto stopped humming. He looked down one more time, at the lights, at the villages, at the world that feared him and fed him and would never ever understand him. His expression was quiet, not happy, not sad, not angry, not the manic grin or the flat stare or the wide-eyed wonder of a boy discovering new food, just quiet. The face of something very old wearing the mask of something very young, looking at a world it had never belonged to and was not sure it wanted to belong to and could not leave because there was nowhere else to go and the food was here. He reached into the air. One more time, magic materialization. His hand disappeared into the fabric of nothing and came back holding a single stick of dango. 3 balls, mitarashi sauce, the same dango he had wanted to buy 12 years ago in the market of Konohagakure, with 2 crumpled coins he had found in a gutter. He took a bite, chewed. The sauce was sweet, the dough was warm, the flavor was exactly right. He sat in the sky and ate his dango, and the stars turned above him, and the world turned below him, and he was alone, and he was hungry, and he was the most powerful thing that had ever existed, and he was a boy, and the night was very dark and very big and very quiet. He finished the dango. He held the empty stick. He looked at it for a long time. Then he dropped it. It fell, turning end over end, shrinking against the dark, a tiny wooden stick falling through a mile of empty air toward a world that had made a monster out of a meal. Naruto watched it disappear. He closed his eyes. Naruto is still hungry, he said. The wind took the words. The mountain did not answer. The stars did not answer. The world did not answer. Nobody ever answered. He opened his eyes. They were pink and black and endless. He looked at the horizon where the last light was dying. He looked at the dark where the first stars were born. He looked at the space between, the thin, glowing line where the world ended and the sky began, where everything he could eat met everything he could not. He smiled, small, real. The smile of a boy who has eaten his fill and is still hungry and will always be hungry and does not know why and has stopped asking. He flew toward the horizon, pink against the dark. Smaller, smaller, a speck, a point.
That's it. That's the whole damn story. A boy who wanted dango and accidentally broke the entire shinobi world in half. If this broke your brain the way it broke mine, subscribe.